Although it was a sunny day, the story begins in a disturbing way. Beside the bed, Ling Mo's phone rings, displaying Yi Lian's photo on the screen. Still groggy, he asks who's calling as he answers the phone. On the other end, the girl asks why he isn't up yet, even though it's already afternoon. Right after, she says she's on her way with his favorite pork chops for dinner. With a smile, the boy calls her the best in the world, and she replies asking him to go wash up. Then Yi Lian says she has something important she's always wanted to tell him. Anxious, he listens as she begins to ask if she could be his. However, before the question ends, her voice on the phone answers yes. Surprised, he says he didn't even finish the sentence, but agrees to be whatever she wants. As a smile grows on his face, Yi Lian starts to declare her love, but a scream interrupts her. At that moment, the young man's expression turns to panic upon hearing the desperate sound. On the other end of the line, the girl screams for him to run as fast as he can. Desperate, he starts yelling her name back at the phone. With one final scream, he suddenly wakes up in his bed. He quickly realizes it was all a dream, a memory of the catastrophe from that day. Still shaken, he murmurs Yi Lian's name while holding a piece of paper. Next, he gets irritated for having slept so long and hears a strange noise coming from the door. Suddenly, a shadowy creature with glowing eyes roars in front of him. He thinks that if he lets his guard down, the zombie will lose control, and luckily he locked it up in time. Soon, a blue energy connects him to the creature, which begins to calm down. With the enemy now soothed, he says it's all right now. Then he throws a key and tells it to free itself, because it's time to leave. Outside, the city streets are completely filled with zombies. As he watches the chaos around him, he thinks Yi Lian's house is just beyond that street. However, he realizes it'll be difficult to cross with so many zombies in the way. Suddenly, he hears someone screaming for help in the middle of the crowd. At that exact moment, a group of undead turns toward the noise. As a red car drives into the horde, it causes a major distraction. He sees it as an opportunity and calls his companion to go. Finally, the two silently climb the stairs of a building. The boy thinks those two idiots are only drawing more attention to themselves by screaming. Meanwhile, the survivors desperately beg for help behind a gate. Right after, the creatures manage to break the gate as the screams continue. In an instant, the zombies reach the men, who scream in desperation. Ling Mo simply watches the scene in silence with a cold expression. With that, he reflects that he doesn't feel remorse seeing the attack, but rather a strange sensation. Then he wonders if what he feels is pleasure, and whether his humanity has been affected by the connection with the undead. Even so, he decides he needs this ability to find Yi Lian with the help of the infected. Next, he orders his companion to search the street, since the girl's house is nearby and she couldn't have gone far. Thus, the creature begins to walk along the road among the other zombies. The being then scans the surroundings carefully. Ahead, it spots a crashed bus and imagines the passengers are either trapped or already monsters. The boy then tells it to keep moving forward. Suddenly, he stops the command and asks it to wait a second. Then he remembers Yi Lian always takes the 618 bus to go home. Shocked, he refuses to believe in such a terrible coincidence. Next, he orders the companion to go check inside the vehicle. Upon entering the bus, the creature encounters several bodies scattered on the floor. Suddenly, it finds Yi Lian standing amid the chaos. Soon, the girl's eyes glow with a menacing red light. Ling Mo freezes in place as he feels his beloved's transformed presence. With a furious roar, Yi Lian lunges and attacks his zombie companion. Ling Mo's zombie companion is hit squarely. With a swift move, the attacker pierces his chest with her hand. Shocked, the boy yells the girl's name, unable to understand how this could be happening. With the impact, his ally is thrown out of the bus, breaking the window. Suddenly, he realizes he feels a familiar connection coming from her. He then understands that Yi Lian has completely turned into a zombie. As he's held by the neck, he fears she might escape if he dies. Determined, he thinks he can't let all his effort to find her be in vain. With that, he comes up with the idea to first try taking control of Yi Lian. To do so, he decides to try perceiving her consciousness using his ability. His astral form travels through a cosmic space toward the light of his beloved's consciousness. Soon, he sees her figure curled up and glowing amid the darkness. Surprised, he recognizes that this is the true consciousness of Yi Lian. The young woman's mind floats peacefully in the mental space, asleep. At last, he extends his hands, ready to establish the connection. A blue energy bond begins to wrap around the girl's sleeping consciousness. In the same instant, she awakens with furious red eyes. With the explosion of energy, the boy's attempt at connection is interrupted. In the real world, Yi Lian screams in pain and rage. Then she violently slams the allied zombie against the floor of the bus. He realizes she is resisting and concludes she must still have some self-awareness. Because of that, he clings to the hope that the girl might fully regain her mind. He feels guilty, thinking she wouldn't have transformed if it weren't for him. Determined to succeed this time, he releases his energy bonds once more. Blue and red energies clash in a chaotic whirlwind. Despite the resistance, he reaches out to try to connect with her. Finally, an energy bond links his astral form to Yi Lian's consciousness. Back on the bus, she releases the unconscious body of the zombie companion. Exhausted on the ground, Ling Mo sighs in relief for having established communication. At last, he calmly asks Yi Lian to come back. However, she suddenly stops and asks him to wait. Surprised, he wonders if the girl wants something from the zombie's brain, so he decides to test her to see what she will do. The young woman's hand then reaches for the head of the fallen companion. Next, she removes a small red gel and asks if that's what he wants. Seeing the hunger in her eyes, the boy realizes she actually wants to eat the gel. Even hesitantly, he agrees and tells her to eat it if that's what she wants. Without a second thought, Yi Lian brings the small red gel to her mouth. At that very moment, his astral form feels a strange and comforting sensation. He notices that the girl feels the same, restoring her energy with a look of relief. Excited, Ling Mo exclaims that the gel is simply amazing. While watching Yi Lian, who stood in the hallway with torn clothes, Ling Mo kept his gaze fixed. With a distressed expression, he softly called her name. The young woman then replied that he had made her go through a lot of pain. Right after, the boy touched her face and promised to find a way to cure her. Meanwhile, the energy bonds began to spin in his hand. Suddenly, her expression turned into one of fury. With a sharp movement, the zombie slapped his hand away forcefully. He then realized that the connection between them was unstable and could kill him. Right after, he felt pain take over his body. At the same time, Yi Lian lunged forward with an attack. At the last second, she stopped the strike very close to his face. Once the situation calmed down, Ling Mo suggested finding a place where she could clean up. They then arrived at a clothing store, but the place was surrounded by zombies. Hidden, the boy said there were 4 creatures nearby. Immediately, his partner sensed the strong killing intent coming from the enemies. He wonders whether the zombie's gel would be beneficial to her. Quickly, he grabs his dagger from his pocket. Then he tells Yi Lian to go first, as he will follow right behind. Suddenly, he's startled by the speed with which she charges. With a powerful impact, the girl destroys the floor around her. Ling Mo grips his knife tightly, impressed by her strength. He then reflects that he needs to level up, or soon he'll lose control over her. After all, he could die at her hands and lose her forever in the city. Determined, he moves forward to join the fight. Next, he throws the dagger at a zombie's head. The two of them charge together against the horde. She dodges and attacks the enemies with agility. At the end of the battle, the boy sheathes his weapon. He then sighs in relief while Yi Lian rests on the floor. The zombie notes that the gels are interesting, and that her body feels healthier after absorbing them. Ling Mo realizes he didn't feel fear, as her wild nature influenced him, so he takes her to a clothing store so she can change. Inside, he becomes thoughtful about what would be the best outfit for her. Then he starts looking for a dress while she waits. Soon after, he finds underwear and feels embarrassed under her gaze. Then he guides the young woman toward the store's bathroom. Inside the room, he starts wetting a cloth in the sink. Soon, the boy prepares to clean the stains on her body. As he cleans her, he tries to stay calm so he doesn't lose focus. With that, he continues the task, repeating to himself to stay calm. Even so, he wonders if he would still be human if he lost control now. As he slowly wakes up in House bedroom, Ling Mo settles under the sheets. He watches the sunlight coming through the window. Soon he calls out for Yi Lian, feeling relieved to see her okay. While fixing the young woman's hair, he realizes the gel from yesterday maintained their connection. Suddenly, her stomach growls loudly. The boy understands she's using telepathy to express her hunger. He then turns and asks if she's hungry. He remembers how the two of them massacred zombies in search of food. Afterwards, his companion devoured the gels one by one. However, her condition worsened, and he had to bring her to a nearby house. He could feel a mysterious energy slowly altering both of their bodies. Ling Mo knows the girl's condition is serious and he must prevent her from losing control again. Yi Lian continues to sleep deeply in bed. Shortly after, her eyes slowly open. As soon as he sees her awake, he asks how she's feeling. The boy laments that, despite the improvement, she still doesn't seem fully conscious. Right after, he notices her eyes are no longer dark and that she seems more energetic. He then concludes that the changes are part of an evolution and that he needs to keep an eye on the virus. As he cleans her, he thinks that at least now people won't see her as a zombie anymore. Ling Mo reflects that the city full of undead is the only path for them to grow. Next, he checks his supplies, including food, water, rope, and his knife. He inspects the blade and notices that the kitchen knife is far too dull to use. Suddenly, he remembers that Wang Lin's family is famous for forging swords. He recalls that Wang Lin's sword shop is nearby, which would explain her popularity. The boy then wonders how hard it must have been for such a fragile girl to survive. With that, he tells Yi Lian that they're going to the sword shop to get a better weapon. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Wang Lin relaxes while a boy keeps watch at the window. The boy yells for her to get up because someone is approaching. She then asks who it is, and he replies that it must be other survivors. Shortly after, Ling Mo and his companion arrive in front of the Wang sword shop. While observing, Wang Lin thinks the boy looks familiar and her friend suggests warning them about the store. She refuses, saying yelling would attract zombies, but the boy worries they'll take her swords. Wang Lin doubts he knows anything about swords, stating that she hid them well in the back of the store. With a serious look, she concludes that fate decides everything and that it would just be bad luck if something happened. Inside the shop, Ling Mo tells Yi Lian that the workshop must be further in the back. Upon finding a door, he believes that must be the right place. He then tries to open the handle but realizes it's locked from the inside. Suspicious, he steps closer and asks if someone is inside. Suddenly, a heavy impact strikes the door from the other side. Immediately, he pulls her back and shouts for her to be careful. Right after, a bloody hand breaks through the door, startling the boy. To his horror, a mutant zombie bursts through the destroyed door. The mutant zombie roars fiercely in Ling Mo's direction. With that, he pulls out his knife and tells Yi Lian to stay behind him. He then charges forward and slashes the creature quickly. Right after, he kicks the monster to try to push it back. Even so, the creature quickly recovers and roars again. The boy furiously yells for the monster to just die already. However, the zombie strikes him and throws him hard against the wall. Lying on the ground, he admits to himself how strong the enemy is. The monster then turns to Yi Lian and roars, ready to attack. The creature stares at her with its bright red eyes glowing intensely. Without hesitation, the young woman lunges forward and pierces the zombie's chest with her hand. The monster roars at the impact of the unexpected attack. He watches, noticing how resilient mutant zombies are. Immediately, Yi Lian runs toward the enemy to finish the fight. Meanwhile, Ling Mo plants his foot against the wall, preparing to return to the battle. The boy leaps forward to strike the monster. With that, he drives the knife into the zombie's head, delivering the final blow. Then he sits on the ground, relieved that it was a close call. Soon he extends his hand and touches another that was nearby. Suddenly, he has a frightened realization. Looking around, he sees several bodies scattered across the room. He then realizes that the mutant zombie was the one who killed all those people. Worried, he turns around and calls for Yi Lian. He finds her retrieving something from the head of the defeated enemy. In her hand, the girl holds a green-colored gel. As soon as she tries to eat it, he stops her and asks to examine it first. The boy notices that the gel seems fresher and has a higher concentration of the virus. Because of that, he decides they should find shelter before she eats it. Next, he approaches the wall of swords to search for a new weapon. He then chooses a katana, satisfied with its apparent good quality. The young man observes the swords, noting that ones from the wine shop would cost thousands on the market. Suddenly, he steps on something strange on the workshop floor. Upon touching the floor, he realizes the area beneath is hollow. Inside, he finds a hidden compartment with several short swords. He concludes that the weapon must be valuable for being hidden and decides to take it. Then he stores the new short sword in the sheath strapped to his leg. Satisfied, he tells Yi Lian they've hit the jackpot. With that, the two leave the sword shop behind. From afar, Wang Lin yells furiously upon seeing Ling Mo take her sword. She is enraged that they defeated the zombie and took her most cherished blade. The young woman is upset, as she was the one who forged the weapon that saved them. Even with her friend trying to calm her, she decides to go after him, saying it took 6 months to make that piece. Her companion suggests they forget the sword and visit his cousin to see if she survived. Wang Lin sighs and agrees to go, as the relative is also her grandfather's apprentice. Even so, she wishes a curse upon the one who stole her sword. Suddenly, Ling Mo sneezes loudly for no apparent reason. He finds it odd to catch a cold with such a healthy body. Because of that, he decides to use disinfectant to get rid of the scent and not attract zombies. He then explains that the tactic only works in places with few enemies. Right after, he concludes that he can now let Yi Lian eat the gel. Yi Lian immediately opens her mouth, ready to receive the food. After eating, she licks his finger, finding the taste irresistible. Then the girl slowly swallows the gel. Suddenly, Ling Mo feels a strong wave of energy surge through his body. He then falls to his knees, shouting that it hurts a lot. In the blink of an eye, Yi Lian's hair wraps around him as he screams her name. In a modern residential building, the afternoon was peaceful. Meanwhile, Ling Mo was passed out in his room. Soon, he opened his eyes, slowly regaining consciousness. Suddenly, he jumped up from the bed in a start. Sitting on the floor, he realized in confusion that he had fainted. Then, an urgent thought put him instantly on alert. He looked around, asking where Yi Lian was. Worried, he wondered if she had escaped his control. Even so, he closed his eyes and sensed that they were still connected. With a clearer mind, he noticed the energy trail coming from her. The connection led him to the stairs, surprised that his partner was moving. Next, he walked down the hallway, calling her name. Upon arriving, he stopped, surprised by what he saw. There was the young woman watching the street through the window on the lower floor. Relieved, Ling Mo celebrated having found her again. Without hesitation, he hugged her from behind and called her name. He held her tightly, relieved to have finally found her. Soon he turned her around, but she only stared at him with a blank expression. The boy realized something was still not right with her. He then thought that Yilian had already regained her consciousness. Even so, he noticed that she now displayed emotions and moved on her own. With that, he believed that if she kept evolving, she could fully recover. At that moment, zombies were attacking violently in the street. In an instant, the creatures were sliced apart by a swift attack. From a distance, he observed that her combat abilities had greatly improved. To Yilian, the undead were just beasts she killed effortlessly and without emotion. Then, Ling Mo wondered how she would react if she faced humans. Even so, he was confident he could stop her from attacking him. Suddenly, he heard a noise and wondered if it was a survivor. Looking over, he saw two people fighting zombies at the entrance of a mall. Nearby, a swordswoman was protecting a frightened boy from a zombie. With a confident smile, the young woman prepared for combat. The girl then gripped her katana firmly. Next, she slashed the creature with a quick and precise strike. Soon after, she shouted for the boy to move back. Frightened, he immediately agreed and stepped back. The swordswoman continued fighting the creatures alone at the scene. Furiously, she cut down another zombie that charged at her. Hidden, Ling Mo watched the scene and admitted the girl was good. He noticed she had great skills and fought with confidence, unlike a normal person. Because of that, he decided not to risk Yilian's safety, since the swordswoman might have special powers. He concluded that the best thing to do was to look out for his own life and began to back away. From inside the building, the boy saw him through the window and screamed desperately for help. Surprised by the scream, he stopped and looked back. He was then shocked, not understanding what the boy was doing. The young man stepped in front of Yilian, telling her to stay back and leave everything to him. With that, he feared the girl's abilities might reveal her true identity. Determined, he drew his weapon and stated he had to handle this on his own. Meanwhile, Shauna told the boy to stop screaming or he'd attract more zombies. Even so, he ignored the warning, insisting that Ling Mo could save them. The swordswoman then looked out the window, watching the boy and Yilian outside. Out there, he was already facing the approaching creatures. With his power, he paralyzed a zombie before it could attack. He then finished the enemy with a quick, precise slash to the neck. Ling Mo realized that his strengthened mind could now control 3 zombies simultaneously. While manipulating them, he thought that the undead were just puppets easy to defeat. Back in the building, the boy exclaimed to Shauna how fierce that fighter was. The attack continued with a direct blow to the head of another zombie. Right after, he eliminated another creature in the same way. Shauna watched the scene, thinking that it wasn't her problem. Even so, the boy celebrated finally having someone to help them. Excited, he called his friend to help make a path out of the building. However, she remained silent, just watching the fight from a distance. With a smile, Liu Yuhao waved and called out to Ling Mo. The boy was shocked to see the duo running toward him, bringing a horde of zombies. Next, Liu Yuhao grabbed his arm, asking him to follow. After the escape, the group hid in an alley to catch their breath. Shauna then commented that they had only gotten rid of the zombies temporarily. Liu Yuhao tried to thank him, but was interrupted when Ling Mo asked him not to. Even so, the boy praised his savior and compared Yilian's endurance to that of his companion. Furious, Shauna scolded her friend for calling her his, while he tried to calm her down. With that, Liu Yuhao invited them to rest at his hideout where they had beer. The boy declined the offer, thinking he needed to keep Yilian away from them. While Liu Yuhao insisted, Shauna told him not to force them if they didn't want to go. Suddenly, the girl's expression turned serious as she noticed something. In a quick motion, she attacked Ling Mo to try and take his dagger. The attempt failed, and she ended up on the ground, leaving Liu Yuhao shocked at his friend's behavior. With the dagger in hand, the boy remarked sarcastically that it was none of her business, while Shauna questioned him about the weapon's origin. The swordswoman hesitated for a moment before finally asking. Seriously, she insisted on knowing where he had gotten that dagger. He replied that he picked it up at a shop, which made Shauna ask if it was Wang's store. Ling Mo was surprised she knew, but the young woman seemed reluctant to explain. With that, Shauna lamented that the people in the shop had probably died. Uncomfortable with her stare, he asked her to stop looking at him. The girl stared back, confused by the sudden request. Shauna then teased, saying his girlfriend didn't seem to care at all. Then she hugged Yilian and affectionately called her sister. Instantly, the girl's eyes glowed with intense fury. The boy realized the danger and ordered her to stop immediately. Gradually, Yilian calmed down, and her gaze returned to normal. To justify her lack of reaction, he explained to Shauna that Yilian couldn't speak. The swordswoman apologized, regretting that such a beautiful girl was mute. Seeing that Yilian didn't seem well, she invited her to rest in their room. Shauna acknowledged Ling Mo's consideration and invited him to rest too, with beer on her tab. Then she grabbed her companion by the hand, excited to chat, while he panicked at her mistake. When they arrived, a girl was surprised that Shauna had brought 2 more people, and she simply confirmed. Inside, Liu Yuhao told the group they had gathered supplies from a supermarket and could go back to get more. Meanwhile, Ling Mo watched the scene with a serious expression. Looking around, he noticed that there were many people in their house. Liu Yuhao then realized he didn't know his name, and the newcomer introduced himself. He also introduced Yilian as his girlfriend, and Liu Yuhao began calling him Brother Ling. With enthusiasm, the boy announced to everyone that he had invited the couple to eat with them as a thank you. A blonde guy named Luke Sen looked at him with disdain, questioning who this so-called brother Ling was. He argued that they already had Shauna and didn't need the help of a stranger. A girl asked Luke Sin not to be mean, but he replied that the visitor just wanted free food. Liu Yuhao defended him, stating that Ling Mo was incredible and had helped them a lot. Luke Sin shot back, saying that the food was barely enough and they shouldn't share it with a stranger. Not knowing what to do, Liu Yuhao asked Shauna to step in and say something. With a slight smile, the swordswoman watched the argument in silence. The boy smiled, realizing that even after humiliating himself, she still remembered how he had scolded her. He thought they were laughing at him, but decided not to argue with people who only excluded others. With that, he declined the food offer, leaving Shauna and Liu Yuhao surprised by his attitude. Luke Sin then mocked him, sarcastically calling him a brave man. He then asked if the outsider could feed the girl, and if he deserved their respect. Ling Mo reflected that it was already good enough to have something to eat and didn't expect to be treated like a master. Suddenly, he moved quickly toward the blonde boy. The unexpected attack left Shauna completely shocked. In an instant, he was face to face with the frightened opponent. Without hesitation, he grabbed him tightly by the collar of his shirt. Luke Sin struggled and cursed while trying to break free. In response, the attacker slapped him hard across the face. The other students watched the scene, frozen in astonishment. He then threatened to slap him again if he said another word to provoke him. Frightened, Luke Sin called for Shauna to help him. She ordered Ling Mo to release him, but also demanded that Luke Sin apologize. The swordswoman pointed out that he hit him anyway, but the boy insisted it was different and demanded an apology. Even while being held, the blonde refused to obey and asked why. In response to his stubbornness, he received another hard slap across the face. With his face marked, Luke Sin glared at him with a look of pure rage. Shauna then told him to apologize, blaming his rude words. He thought bitterly that he was just trying to save food and that no one defended him when he was hit. Even unwillingly, he finally gave in and apologized in a low voice. As soon as he heard the apology, Ling Mo let him go indifferently. Liu Yuhao immediately stepped forward and apologized to the newcomer, saying he hadn't expected that to happen. Ling Mo then asked who those people were, and the boy explained they were classmates from a boarding school. While explaining about Luke Sin, the visitor refused again, saying he didn't have time to feed someone useless. Shan insisted that they stay the night, since it was getting dark and her sister wouldn't endure the journey. Even so, Ling Mo thanked her and said they would find another place to rest in the city. Suddenly, Elian grabbed his hand and asked them not to leave. Surprised by her action, he remained silent for a moment. Seeing his hesitation, Shan asked directly what he wanted. Noting his combat skills and fearless nature, she asked for his help. Although Shauna was irritated that he didn't even hear the proposal, Ling Mo immediately refused. Then, the young woman held his hand to stop him from leaving, while he asked her to let go. Next, she questioned why he didn't want to help, since they were all skilled survivors. The boy stepped back and began to explain his position. He then said he would never help if it meant supporting people he considered useless. Upon hearing that, Shauna asked if he would help if they got rid of the others, but he denied having said that. She then explained that they were students and had left classmates behind, and he recognized the school's name. She continued, saying they returned but couldn't get close, and asked for his help to enter the school. Immediately, the boy extended his hand and asked what he would get in return, leaving everyone surprised. Seeing the group's reaction, he asked if they thought he would work for free. While Liu Yuhao lamented the cruelty of the world, the boy questioned whether order or morality still existed. Shauna, in turn, agreed that his demand was fair and revealed that his dagger had been forged by her cousin Wang Lin. The boy admires the dagger, thinking his cousin's skill is incredible, but laments that she died young. Right after, the girl explains that the dagger is an advance payment and that both of them learned to forge with their grandfather. With the deal sealed, she offers to keep Elian safe with her teammates while they carry out the mission. However, the boy refuses the offer and insists the girl will stay with him, thinking she's a zombie and would kill them all. Next, Shauna comments that, though he's annoying, he protects his girlfriend well and should value her. Soon after, she reflects that the people on campus might be dead, but wonders if it's persistence or foolishness to keep going. Meanwhile, the boy rests his hand on his dagger. In the room, Liu Yuhao announces to the others that he agreed to help them look for the teachers and classmates. Even with one teammate worried about the zombies, Shauna reaffirms that they already discussed it, and she's going to rescue them. She then recalls that, if it hadn't been for others giving them cover, they'd already have been devoured. Faced with that, the girl falls silent and doesn't respond. Soon, the bespectacled teammate agrees that it would be selfish to leave them behind. The boy then volunteers to go with the group leader, but is immediately forbidden. Another explains that he doesn't know how to fight and would be an easy target, accusing him of just wanting his companion's protection. That way, she tells her teammate to let them go, since the group's purpose is to help in times of crisis, and he agrees. Left behind, the teammates wonder what they should do now. The young man then promises that if they have weapons, they'll protect themselves and not get in the way. Finally, the boy tells everyone to get some rest, saying they'll leave the next morning. Shauna stops him, suggesting that Yi Lion sleep with the girls since it would be more convenient. He simply stares at her in silence for a moment. Then he agrees with a smile and wishes them a good rest. Immediately, the girl wonders why he suddenly became so friendly. Alone, the boy thinks that he can't leave her with the others, as he needs to keep control over Yi Lian. Meanwhile, his energy bond subtly wraps around the girl. Her expression grows distant under his influence. Already in the room, Sean invites her to come in, saying they'll sleep together since there's no other bed. Next, she asks if she doesn't take her clothes off to sleep, but the young woman looks confused. With a smile, Sean asks if she's feeling shy. Then she offers to help and pushes her onto the bed. Yi Lian, however, stops her by grabbing her wrist tightly. The girl is surprised and thinks she was foolish for almost discovering her low body temperature. Soon, she asks her to help remove a few pieces of her own clothes. Lying in bed, the boy reflects on the bold teasing in the girl's room. With a smile, he decides that since she asked, it's his duty to obey. In the other room, Yi Lian moves toward Shauna, who nervously asks what she's doing. A strap of her clothing is gently pulled. Then the girl calls out to her, completely embarrassed by the situation. She feels strange, as if a man were watching her, which makes her even more flustered. Awkwardly, she says they should just go to bed as soon as possible. The other, however, asks if she's regretting what she said. Right after, she says it's too late and moves in, making Shauna scream. Shauna begs her to stop, while the boy thinks the girl is too naive to flirt with him. Suddenly, Yi Lian pulls away and lies down to sleep, leaving her companion confused. Seeing that the other girls were watching, she tells them to get in bed now too. The night passes peacefully outside. Already lying down, Shauna comments that Yi Lian is an outgoing girl, and that her smile would make her even prettier. From the other room, the boy hears Shauna say she now understands he's not a bad guy and thanks him for the help. While the zombie reflects on how her companion carries the burden of feeding everyone, she thinks a normal person would struggle to survive. The boy, however, simply concludes that she asked for it and decides to forget it. As soon as morning arrives, the group gets ready. Outside, a voice calls them to grab some food before they leave. Next, a teammate offers water bottles to the boy, which he gladly accepts. Luke Sin complains that he takes the supplies without a care, but is warned not to get beaten again. Even so, he grumbles and calls everyone cowards. Soon, the boy turns around and asks what weapons they managed to get. Liu Yuhao replies that aside from Shauna's sword, the best weapon is a kitchen knife, and that zombies are only a bit stronger than people. He then says that anyone with courage can fight, since the only advantage zombies have is their numbers. Luke Sin, however, smiles and thinks they're underestimating everything. Next, the group is informed that they need to reach their destination before the afternoon. On the way, Shauna charges forward with her sword unsheathed against the enemies. After kicking a zombie, she shouts for everyone to follow her. Liu Yuhao turns to face a zombie that was approaching and prepares to strike. The boy observes the fight and notes that, although they cooperate well, the pair would be better off alone. Meanwhile, he subtly uses his power through his hand. He focuses on his plan regarding Yi Lian. He then reflects that ever since she ate the mutant gel, she'll need more to evolve. Remembering that mutants appeared in confined places, he decides to search schools and hospitals. Thus, he plans to go alone with his companion once they reach the school, to hunt for more mutant zombies. Suddenly, a zombie hand bursts through a nearby window. The creature grabs one of the students and pulls him against the glass. The boy screams for help as he's dragged inside. Without hesitation, the young man runs toward the building. Then he leaps through the shattered glass, surprising everyone. Inside, he finds the student on the ground, pinned by the zombie. The monster begins to lose interest in the boy's body. With his face covered, the young man watches the scene intently. With a quick movement, he lunges forward to strike the zombie. Shauna runs inside and asks what happened and where their classmate is. While the others look in from the doorway, the boy says there's no need to see. Then he stands up and announces seriously that the boy is dead. While Lin Mo and Yi Lian are away, a crowd gathers near the broken window. At the same time, Shauna looks down in silence, visibly worried. Soon, a classmate asks her what they should do next. She then turns and firmly orders everyone to keep moving. From a distance, the zombie girl looks shaken by the situation as she's closely watched. Even so, the young man recognizes that she is very determined in critical moments. With that, he calls Yi Lian so they can leave the place as well. In another hallway, Luke Sin looks angrily at classmate's body on the ground. A bespectacled student tries to pull him, insisting that they follow the others. The boy warns that they're leaving, but Luke Sin blames him for the recent death. Desperate, he asks how they'll survive without Shauna and fears the harshness of the other leader. Luke Sin shouts that he won't follow, still furious about having been assaulted earlier. With that, the bespectacled student suggests that fewer people mean more advantages. He then advises him to just try pleasing Shauna, reminding him that she was never his. Finally, he states with a smile that Lin Mo is simply untouchable. Furious, Luke Sin curses Wang Cheng, calling him treacherous. As the other walks away with the group, Luke Sin keeps insulting him, calling him a hypocrite. Then he gets frustrated, convinced that he would have won over Shauna if not for the interference. Up ahead, A zombie horde blocks the way in front of the building. Hiding, everyone watches the situation and realizes it will be difficult to get through. So the young woman concludes they need a plan to draw the enemies away. Meanwhile, Luke Xin and Wang Cheng only observe the scene, unsure of what to do. The girl volunteers to attract the monster's attention, but she is stopped by a firm no. With a smile, the young man declares that he'll go in her place. He then instructs everyone to hide and cross once the zombies follow him. Worried, his companion offers to go instead, but he simply orders her to go. Suddenly, a hand grabs the strategist's shoulder. In tears, Liu Yuhao thanks him on behalf of everyone, calling him a real man. The young man, however, thinks to himself that he just doesn't want to babysit the group anymore. Besides that, he believes the chance of failure would be high if left up to her. Wang Cheng suggests to the girl that they follow the plan, and she agrees to hide. Before leaving, she turns back and asks him to be careful. The leader then raises his hand and announces they have only 5 minutes. Shauna is confused upon hearing that's the time to find a hiding place. With a smile, he adds that after that, a zombie party will begin there. Then he leads Yi Lion into a cell phone store. The young man positions himself inside the door, facing the approaching zombies. Soon, some of them begin advancing toward him. His energy bond then starts to spin around his fingers. With that, he uses his power to immobilize and control the surrounding enemies. He thinks he's almost at his limit, able to control at most 3 more. Even so, upon seeing a shelf full of phones, he concludes that will be enough. One of the controlled zombies grabs a phone from the counter. Soon after, all 3 appear covered in cell phones. The strategist then prepares to set the speakers to maximum volume, thinking it's a great idea. He positions himself near the door and announces that he's ready. Next, he begins a countdown starting from the number 3. A phone starts playing music as he continues with the number 2. With a determined look, he finishes the countdown by shouting the number 1. Immediately, the zombies run toward the sound, clearing the way. A horde of zombies gathers in front of the damaged building. Suddenly, an upbeat song about seaweed starts playing from a phone. With that, the zombies with phones strapped to their bodies run along to the rhythm of the song. They keep running as the melody guides them away from the group. The lyrics about dancing with the wave echo between the buildings. Thus, the entire horde is drawn toward the same point. Meanwhile, the group of students waits in silence inside a safe room. Shauna is startled by the commotion, but despite it, she feels happy. Right after, she looks out the window, thinking Ling Mo's move was reckless. The young woman then recalls the instructions they were given and calls him an idiot for taking such a risk. Seeing the path is clear, she turns and orders everyone to move. Next, she rushes the group to take advantage of the opportunity and escape. As they run, she wonders if the two have already reached the hospital. Outside, the massive horde crashes into the building's entrance. Liu Yuhao then calls for her to keep moving forward, but Shauna hesitates for a moment. As the two of them run, the boy yells for her to move, saying it's all he can do. Suddenly, a zombie is thrown from a window, shattering the glass as it falls. Despite the impact, the body is ignored by the horde crowding at the entrance. Immediately, the enemies stir, confused by what just happened. Taking the chance, the group manages to get a bit farther down the street. Then he leads the escape and shouts for everyone to keep running. Right behind them, the enraged mass begins to pursue them closely. Seen from above, they run along the street as the monsters close in. Shauna asks what they should do, and the boy says they need shelter to avoid fighting in the open. As soon as he spots a building, he points toward it and shouts for them to go there. The group then rushes inside through a revolving door. Seconds later, the zombies crash against the glass, trying to get in. The leader stops his companion from acting, saying it's not the right moment yet. Soon, a zombie that was already inside roars, but Liu Yuhao confronts it with a knife. Holding his dagger, the boy orders them to kill all the enemies, one by one. He and Shauna fight together amidst a fierce assault. Meanwhile, 2 students freeze in fear, clutching their knives. Nearby, Luke Xin asks what they should do, but Wang Cheng says he doesn't know. Suddenly, the sound of high heels breaks the tense silence. With that, a girl turns in fright at the sudden noise. Right after, a terrified scream echoes as enemies appear on the staircase. A boy begs them to get away, but is grabbed from behind. In an act of betrayal, a hand pushes him toward the creatures. He turns in shock and realizes he was pushed by Wang Cheng. Thus, he cries for help as one of them captures him. In another hallway, a student backs away, begging the zombie to stay away. The creature then attacks her by surprise, making her scream in fear. At the last second, the blade of a knife intercepts the monster's hand. Yi Lion appears quickly and cuts the creature's arm to save the girl. Then she stands protectively in front of the terrified student. Shauna watches the scene from a distance and comments on how amazing the rescue was. The boy simply watches it all with a proud smile on his face. 1 minute earlier, Ling Mo and his group were fighting zombies at the building entrance. With a swift motion, he took out one of the infected using his dagger. Suddenly, the boy realized something was different about the situation. Next, he felt that he could no longer maintain control as he was at his limit. So he shouted for everyone to fall back and slow down the pace of the fight. Unexpectedly, a zombie dropped from the upper floor straight toward them. Liu Yuhao looked up, startled, not knowing what to do now. While finishing off an enemy, Ling Mo told him to take care of himself first. Right after, the leader ordered Yi Lian to kill the 2 zombies, but without overdoing it. The girl then rushed to attack the indicated targets. Her blade sliced through the air in a swift and precise flash. With a single spin, she defeated both infected at once. Back in the present, the enemies' bodies lay motionless at the building's entrance. Sitting on the ground, Liu Yuhao let out a relieved sigh, saying it was close and he thought he would die. The zombie girl then noticed that 2 people from the group were missing. The student said he saw 2 of them go upstairs during the fight. With that, Shauna suggested checking on them, but the boy replied it wasn't necessary. With a dark look, he stated they were probably already dead. Ling Mo then explained that they wouldn't stand a chance with zombies on the upper floors. At that moment, a sharp scream of desperation came from upstairs. The other students immediately cowered, frightened by the sound. Distressed, Shauna blamed herself for the 4 deaths and feared she would be next. Soon, Ling Mo touched her shoulder and said it wasn't her fault. He added that things could have been worse, and she thanked him softly. As the 2 walked toward the exit, the young woman watched them from a distance. She thought that besides that boy, Yi Lian was also very powerful. Suddenly, a survivor grabbed another, screaming that it was all his fault. In a fit of rage, he raised a knife and threatened to kill him. However, before he could land a strike, he was stopped. Shauna had blocked the attack with her sword, stabbing it into the ground. Then Liu Yuhao punched the attacker in the face and asked if he was crazy. Ling Mo watched the scene from the side, silent and with a serious gaze. Wang Qing's reflection appeared in his focused eyes. However, the boy with glasses showed an expression of pure anger. The other scolded him, reminding him that weapons shouldn't be used against fellow classmates. Even so, Wang Qing asked him to calm down, assuring him he was fine. With a smile, he asked them to release the aggressor, justifying that he was only nervous. Shan then agreed and told everyone to leave. The leader remained silent, watching the 2 students walk away. Noticing the stare, Wang Qing asked why he was being looked at like that. A mysterious blue gleam then appeared in the boy's eye. Coldly, he simply ordered him to get out of the way. After that, the group arrived at the entrance of an underground supermarket. Inside, a huge zombie was crouched over other bodies in a dark hallway. The creature then suddenly began to rise, alerted by their presence. With glowing red eyes, the monster let out a powerful roar. The terrifying sound echoed through the empty supermarket aisles. Soon after, the rest of the group descended the stairs into the supermarket. Upon arriving, Liu Yuhao commented that the place seemed empty. Before they split up, Shauna told the boy to go search ahead while they covered him. He then instructed everyone to spread out to look for useful items and meet later at the entrance. Already inside the store, he reflected that his mindset and perception had improved after the last battle. Despite that, he admitted to himself that he had a bad feeling the entire time. He felt like someone had been watching him ever since he entered the place with his companion. Unexpectedly, Yi Lian turned an alert, making him wonder what she sensed. He realized the girl seemed to be intensely desiring something. He then questioned whether what attracted her was the presence of a mutant zombie. At that exact moment, a sharp scream of desperation echoed from one of the aisles. With that, he announced that something was happening, and both ran toward the sound. Further down the corridor, the giant zombie stared at his fallen victim with contempt. Luke Sin looked up and saw the monster crouched over him, completely paralyzed. As the creature attacked him, the student screamed desperately for help. The mutant looked at its prey on the ground with a disgusted expression. Completely terrified, the young man trembled, unable to move. With a roar, the creature lunged at him, and he ran, screaming for help. Upon seeing the pair at the end of the corridor, he begged them to save him. The boy immediately recognized that the creature was a mutant zombie. As his partner ran ahead, he called out to her in a warning tone. He understood that since it was a mutant, they would have to fight with full force. Without hesitation, the monster struck Luke Sin and hurled him away with a punch. The strength of the blow caught the young man completely off guard. Then the creature smashed the ground with its fist in a devastating strike. He staggered from the impact, realizing the enemy was far more powerful. With Luke Sin screaming in pain in the background, he decided he needed to kill the creature before Shauna arrived. Meanwhile, he began channeling his energy into his hand. Soon, a glow mixed with the blue, forming a trail of power. With her eyes closed, Yi Lian focused to unleash her special attack. With that, the boy shouted for her to go, releasing her full power. In the blink of an eye, she appeared behind the enemy, who noticed her too late. The girl then dashed past the creature, leaving a deep cut across its back. With a smile, he thought her killer instinct was fully unleashed. Then he shouted it was his turn and charged into the fight. His dagger slashed as he delivered a precise blow. At the same time, Yi Lian drove her fingers into the monster's back, which cracked from the impact. The creature roared in pain, turning furiously toward the attacker. As he dodged, he realized he needed to find the weakness of such a powerful monster. Suddenly, he had an idea to turn the tide in his favor. He then extended his hand, surrounding the creature with rings of energy. He felt the immense pressure, finding it very difficult to control 2 mutants at once. The extreme effort caused blood to start dripping from his nose. Even so, he shouted for his power to evolve, forcing his own limits. A torrent of pure energy then manifested from his will. The energy restrained the monster, leaving it completely vulnerable. taking the chance, he shouted for Yi Lion to strike now. Immediately, she charged toward the immobilized creature to deliver the final blow. With an elegant move, she struck the zombie and landed softly on the ground. Then she held the green gel core she had recovered from inside the monster. Right after, Shauna and Liu Yuhao came running down the empty hallway. Startled by the scene, the young woman asked what had happened there. Her eyes widened in shock at the sight of the aftermath of the battle. In front of her, the giant monster's body lay among the rubble. A short distance away, Ling Mo and Yi Lian observed the defeated enemy. Exhausted, the boy covered his mouth to catch his breath after the battle. Worried, Shan asked if he was okay, and he nodded with a smile. Discreetly, the boy tucked away the green gel core he had recovered. He then reflected that his mindset had finally evolved with the last fight. With that, he thought his connection with Yi Lian had grown stronger, and that he might be able to control 2 mutants. Meanwhile, Liu Xin remained on the ground, groaning in pain and begging for help. Shauna then asked Liu Yuhao to bandage the injured boy, and he agreed. Running over to his friend, the boy told him to stop crying as he approached to help. Even while receiving aid, Liu Xin glared at Ling Mo, thinking he could have saved him. In his mind, he cursed the situation with a look of pure resentment. In another hallway, Shauna and the others found a classmate badly wounded on the ground. With a weak voice, the boy begged the young woman for help as he cried. She looked at him with a dark expression, realizing the severity of the situation. Drawing her sword, she simply told him to rest in peace. Then she struck him with the blade to end his suffering. The young woman then explained to her frightened companion that the longer he lived, the more he would suffer. Ling Mo soon approached and placed a hand on her shoulder in a silent gesture. Right after, Shauna commented on how quickly they had defeated a mutant, but the boy said it was a tough fight and that he also got hurt. Suspicious, the young woman thought that boy was hiding something from her. Liu Yuhao then called her, saying he needed to tell her something important. Shauna agreed and called Ling Mo, saying he could hear it too. As soon as they gathered, she stated that she didn't think Liu Xin would survive. The boy explained that the color of his wound was the same as the zombies, and that he might turn. Worried, he asked what they should do, but Shauna replied that she had already suspected this. He then suggested maybe they could take him with them, but the young woman immediately refused. She explained that they couldn't bring him, since everyone was already avoiding him, and Liu Yuhao asked what they would do. Ling Mo then said not to look at him, stating that he wouldn't get involved in that kind of problem. With that, Shauna suggested they leave food behind and return later, only bringing him if he hadn't transformed. The boy thought it was too much trouble and a waste of food, since Liu Xin might not even appreciate it. Even so, he concluded it wasn't a bad idea, since it was better than dragging a dead weight around. After the decision, the group remained in silence in a corner of the room, away from Liu Xin. The young woman then told the injured boy that the office was a safe hiding place where the zombies wouldn't find him. She continued, explaining that they couldn't take the risk and would check on him once they returned from the school. With a sinister smile, Liu Xin sarcastically replied that it was fine. Next, Shauna told Liu Yuhao it was time to go, and he agreed. Ling Mo reflected that, compared to taking someone's life, perhaps it was sadder to abandon a companion. He concluded that the girl was doing the right thing, while the other was selfish and would sacrifice everyone for himself. Suddenly, the boy wondered if people infected by mutants would also become mutant zombies. In the dark room, one of Liu Xin's eyes stared out in a disturbing way. Through the crack in the door, Ling Mo watched the injured one with a serious, focused gaze. Soon after, Ling Mo announced they had arrived at No. 3 Secondary School. With serious expressions, the group prepared to enter the building. Despite the apparent calm, he noticed that the silence around them felt strange. Meanwhile, Liu Yuhao explained that many zombies had remained at the school. Hearing that, Ling Mo concluded that a boarding school was a perfect nest for the emergence of mutant zombies. From his companion's reaction, he realized Yi Lian had already sensed the presence of these creatures. As soon as Shauna suggested they enter, he stopped her and asked her to wait. With a smile on his face, the boy said their cooperation ended there, surprising the girl. He then stated that from that moment on, each of them would go their separate ways. The girl lowered her head, visibly disappointed by the decision. Soon after, she composed herself with a smile and thanked them both for their help. Although Liu Yuhao offered supplies for the difficult journey ahead, Ling Mo declined and told them to keep them. Saying goodbye, he declared that he had something else to do in the school and that maybe they would meet again. The reflection in a nearby window showed the couple already inside the building. There, the boy noticed Yi Lian's eyes had turned red again, confirming the presence of mutant zombies in the area. Next, he stared at the elevators in a dark, blood-stained hallway. To his surprise, one of the elevators was still working. Suddenly, the girl lunged aggressively, leaving her partner confused. He grabbed her firmly and shouted for her to stop immediately. He quickly deduced that the mutants might be in the elevator, and her reaction confirmed his suspicion. With that, Ling Mo asked Yi Lian to fall back while he picked up an eraser that had fallen to the floor. Right after, he threw the object to press the elevator call button. With his daggers already in hand, he prepared for battle. The panel indicated the elevator was descending from the 3rd floor. When the door opened, He ordered his companion not to move. At that moment, a monstrous hand forced the door open. Watching closely, the boy confirmed it was just as he had expected. A mutant zombie with glowing red eyes roared furiously. Without hesitation, Ling Mo charged forward to attack. With a swift move, he slashed with his blades. The monster blocked the strike, but took a precise cut to the neck. However, it grabbed the blade, and the boy realized its hands were so tough that even his dagger couldn't cut them. With a confident smile, he shouted his companion's name. Immediately, Yi Lion appeared behind him and lunged at the enemy. She attacked with her sharp claws, but the zombie dodged quickly. Taking advantage of the distraction, the boy rushed at the creature again. The beast recovered and blocked the next attempt with its hardened arm. Without wasting time, he combined his daggers into a single spinning weapon. With a roar, the monster shattered the equipment with a powerful blow. Suddenly, a beam of energy shot toward the creature. The energy wrapped around the zombie's neck, binding it. Surprised, Ling Mo looked back and shouted Yi Lian's name. In an instant, she struck the enemy's head with great force. The creature's arm completely disintegrated under the impact of the blow. The beast fell to the floor, off balance and severely wounded. Even without an arm, the zombie roared in rage. With that, the boy concluded that higher-level mutants were much harder to control. Still holding his dagger, he said the creature was no longer a threat since it had lost a hand. At last he called his partner, and the two of them jumped over the fallen enemy to enter. Thus, Ling Mo hurled the zombie against the elevator wall. Taking the opportunity, Yi Lion rushed forward to attack. Right after, she struck the enemy's chest with a devastating impact. Meanwhile, the boy immobilized the creature by stabbing his dagger into its mouth. Then he shouted for his ally to deliver the finishing blow in a coordinated strike. Suddenly, the zombie is surrounded by beams of energy that paralyze it. He shouts the girl's name, preparing her for the next move. The creature writhes, unable to resist the energy. In a leap, the fighter positions herself over the enemy for the final attack. With a crushing blow, she completely smashes the monster against the ground. Exhausted, he sits on the floor and expresses relief that they finally won. Right after, Yi Lion retrieves a green gel that appeared from the monster's remains. She hands the item to her companion. The boy observes the item in his hand, wondering if it's a new type of gel. As he examines it, he concludes that it seems better than the previous one. He stops her from eating the item, explaining that now is not the right time since the place is dangerous. After that, he stores the green gel in a small plastic bag. He gets up and says they need to go, as there may be other mutant zombies nearby. Both continue fighting together in perfect sync. At another moment, the young woman attacks a zombie while being controlled by her partner's energy. The duo keeps eliminating multiple enemies in a coordinated assault. After the battle, she stands over a body while gazing at the scenery through the window. He sighs in exhaustion, and the companion hands him another gel she collected. The young man looks at the new item, commenting that its color seems pretty ordinary. Then he says that with what he just got, he now has 7 gels in total. He sets 2 of them aside, noting that the others seem to be high quality based on their color. His partner suggests that these gels could probably help him evolve again. He reflects that while controlling her, he didn't feel any separation, as if she were part of his body. With that, he believes he could control 2 zombies, but his own physical condition is a disadvantage. He comments that he's exhausted after fighting all morning, but the girl doesn't seem tired at all. He thinks he could be stronger if his body were just a bit more resilient. Still tired, he asks for his companion's hand to help him stand. At that moment, a ribbon with a shining pink stone comes loose and falls. He watches the object fall, curious. Suddenly, he lifts his head with a surprised expression. Unexpectedly, he finds his face very close to Yi Lian's. She looks at him with a neutral and innocent expression. Visibly nervous at the proximity, he gulps. Then he steps back and picks up the ribbon, trying to calm himself. Meanwhile, in another dark hallway of the school, Shauna's group moves toward their destination. Soon, she warns the others that they're near the classroom and everyone needs to be careful. At that moment, Liu Yuhao asks if they could still be alive, while another classmate doubts their survival. With determination, the leader says she's ready and that she needs to fulfill the promise she made. Next, she decides they should go and check the situation for themselves. The group then approaches a door in a hallway stained with blood. She stares at the classroom entrance with a serious and anxious expression. Right after, she knocks on the door to call whoever is inside. As soon as a voice asks who's there, the boy gets excited by the reply. The young woman identifies herself and says she came to get them, which relieves the group upon learning they're alive. The door opens, revealing Professor Wine, who shouts Shauna's name desperately. Surprised, Liu Yuhao asks what happened to him. However, she interrupts him, asking him to wait a moment. Then she questions why so few are left, and the professor replies it was an accident. With a furious look, she demands he get out of the way, but the man tries to stop her. As they enter the room, everyone is faced with dismembered bodies and zombies eating the remains. Shocked by the scene, Liu Yuhao tries to ask his classmate what's going on. His expression turns to pure horror as he realizes the situation. A bloody kitchen knife on the floor confirms the terrible truth. Disgusted, the boy covers his mouth as he realizes they became cannibals. The professor, however, celebrates the group's arrival, saying now they don't have to live that way anymore. Right after, he asks for food, revealing they haven't eaten anything normal in days, while she tightens her grip on the sword's handle. Her gaze fills with a cold and determined fury. Without hesitation, she delivers a powerful kick to the professor's face. The impact sends him crashing into a table, leaving Liu Yuhao speechless. Lying on the floor, the man screams furiously, asking what she's doing. The young woman covers her face and admits to herself that Ling Mo was right. Turning to him, she declares with disdain that those people are vermin. She accuses them of choosing to kill and eat their own friends instead of going out to search for food. He concludes that those who devour friends without fighting to grow are more dangerous than the zombies themselves. Coldly, she states that they will have to survive on their own. The teacher repeats her words, completely stunned by the decision. With that, one of the students explodes in fury, accusing her of abandoning them. Suddenly, the whole group turns against her, shouting that they need to kill her. Then they all charge in a desperate and furious attack. Her gaze fills with deadly rage in the face of the threat. With a swift motion, she strikes. The swordswoman delivers a lethal blow with her blade against the group. Right at the start, Ling Mo and Yi Lion enter a completely destroyed school corridor. Then he comments that the situation feels strange. Looking into the classroom, he observes that there should have been mutant zombies there. He then notices that his companion's abnormal state has passed and wonders if the enemy had really been there. Soon after, his attention is drawn to a broken window in the corridor. With that, he wonders if the creature might have escaped through it. In response, Yi Lion suggests they check the other buildings. They proceed down the dark corridor. Suddenly, a scream for help echoes through the stairwell. At that moment, Shan appears and drives her blade through a classmate's chest with a swift strike. Surprised, the others watch the boy fall to the ground. She then glares at them with a furious expression. Faced with her rage, the survivors back away in complete terror. Panicking, they flee down the stairs, screaming for help and begging her not to come closer. Without hesitation, the young woman leaps toward another classmate to continue her assault. With a precise spin, she cuts down two more at once. As she walks slowly, the last remaining one watches her from the floor, terrified. Completely cornered, he crawls backward in despair. Then he begs her to let him go. Next, he kneels on the ground, pleading not to be killed and promising to do anything. With a cold expression, Sean asks if he hadn't heard the same words from others. She then questions if the friends he killed didn't say the exact same thing. Terrified, the boy desperately tries to explain himself, but his neck is cut before he can finish the sentence. Right after, she declares that he has no right to explain. At that moment, Liu Yuhao and another classmate rush down the stairs, calling her name. The two stop, shocked at the scene before their eyes. Blood slowly drips from the blade held by Shauna. She simply remains silent, holding her weapon. Cautiously, Liu Yuhao approaches and asks if she's okay. Concerned, he insists that she shouldn't scare him like that. Suddenly, a scream echoes as a girl is attacked from behind by a zombie. The mutant creature turns to them with glowing red eyes. Frightened, he screams when he realizes what it is. Next, the enemy roars and charges toward the panicking boys. Moments later, it appears behind Shauna and roars again, but she remains still. Desperate, Liu Yuhao shouts for her to be careful. Meanwhile, Wang Cheng realizes he would be dead without her help. On impulse, he pushes a classmate to the side. Then he cries out for help. The creature prepares to attack the defenseless boy. With a fatal bite, the zombie strikes the boy's neck. Shauna watches the scene in silence, with an emotionless expression. Her eyes lock firmly onto the mutant enemy. With a quick movement, she prepares her sword for attack. Then she charges forward and drives her blade through the creature's chest. On the ground, the dead classmate's body lies in a pool of blood. Relieved, Wang Cheng comments with a nervous smile that it's finally over. When he tries to speak to Shauna, she only stares at him coldly. Before he can say more, the young woman interrupts him, saying not to say anything else and that they need to go. Outside, Luke Sin looks through the broken window and angrily asks if Ling is not there. Since his target hasn't shown up, he decides he'll kill the others first. Then he jumps onto the window ledge and enters the room. The sudden noise causes Shauna to turn in alarm. With a shout, the intruder charges and tries to attack her. However, he hits her directly. The force of the impact sends her flying back, while Liu Yuhao watches in shock. On the ground, the girl stammers Luke Sin's name, who comments on seeing her again so soon. Moments later, she screams in pain as he stomps on her violently. The attacker then grabs her by the shirt, pulling her upward. Seeing the scene, Liu Yuhao draws a knife and yells for him to let her go. With a cry of courage, he charges at Luke Sin, who stares back at him without moving. Even so, the enemy strikes him with a powerful blow. Then she informs him that her target isn't the boy and tells him to warn Ling Mo. Coldly, she sends a message, saying she'll be waiting in the dormitory and will kill Shauna if Ling Mo doesn't show up. As she walks away with the girl, Liu Yuhao helplessly screams for her to let go. Devastated, the young man falls to his knees on the floor, cursing the enemy's name in anger. Wang Cheng grabs him, warning him to stop shouting or he'll attract zombies to the area. Immediately, a group of undead appears in the hallway, drawn by the noise. Desperate, the classmate asks what they'll do now that the monsters are coming. Liu Yuhao then decides they need to run and find Lingmo first. Right after, they see more zombies approaching through the building's broken window. With that, the two of them run into a room, trying to escape the incoming horde. He manages to shut the door just in time, as the creatures slam into it. Next, they quickly push a desk to barricade the entrance. Sitting on the floor, Liu Yuhao says they should be safe there for now. Trapped in the room, Wang Cheng desperately asks what they should do next. The other replies that the only option is to try to find Ling Mo. Even so, the classmate hesitates for a moment. At that instant, a zombie breaks the window and starts to climb in. Soon after, the two watch in shock as more of them enter through the opening. Without hesitation, Liu Yuhao prepares himself, grabbing a school desk. Then he warns that they'll die if they fight and tells his friend to run when he gives the signal. In his thoughts, he desperately wonders where Ling Mo is. Meanwhile, the zombies slowly approach, surrounding the two of them. With a shout, he gives the signal to flee. Right after, he throws the desk with all his strength, smashing the enemies. Taking advantage of the distraction, he yells for Wang Cheng to move the barricade from the door. With the path clear, the desk crushes one of the remaining zombies. They try to leave the room, and Liu Yuhao celebrates the success of their escape. However, upon stepping into the hallway, he finds more creatures in front of him. As one of them charges with a roar, he finds himself completely cornered. With that, he closes his eyes, certain his end has come. Suddenly, someone saves his life. Confused, he opens his eyes as the zombie drops dead in front of him. Then, Ling Mo appears above the defeated creature, firmly holding his dagger. Completely shocked, Liu Yuhao looks up and calls him Brother Ling. Next, the warrior grips his weapon and asks why only the two of them are there, and where Shauna is. Just then, among the bodies, Liu Yuhao appears and questions what Ling Mo just said. Then, Ling Mo reflects on whether Luke Xin really captured Shauna. Liu Yuhao shouts that Luke Xin threatened to kill the girl if he didn't show up. He then explains that the enemy turned into a mutant zombie and only Ling Mo can defeat him. The boy realizes that the mutation isn't the surprising part, but the fact that Luke Xin still has enough consciousness to make threats is. With that, he hopes learning something about it could be useful for Yi Lian's evolution. Right after, he seriously asks where they are. The young man replies that it's the male dormitory and promises to lead him there. While running, he hurries the group, fearing that Shauna is in danger. Soon, they all rush out of the ruined hallway. Outside, the wind blows dry leaves across an empty path. The breeze continues sweeping through an abandoned garden. In the distance, a group of zombies crowds over a body lying on the ground. One of them tears off a chunk of flesh violently. The creature then struggles to swallow something. Suddenly, the zombie's eye glows with an intense red light. Next, the new mutant lets out a powerful roar, its eyes radiating energy. Terrified, Wang Cheng asks Ling Mo if they shouldn't take a detour. The leader explains that hungry zombies evolve by eating others, creating more mutants. Soon, the monster notices them and stares intensely. With that, it charges forward alongside other creatures. Without saying a word, Ling Mo simply nods toward Yi Lian. Meanwhile, Wang Cheng crouches down, regretting that they didn't detour. In a swift motion, a dagger flies and hits one of the zombies in the head. Right after, Ling Mo quickly retrieves his blade. He delivers a precise strike that takes down another enemy. Liu Yuhao cheers, confident that Shauna will be safe with the two of them around. However, Wang Cheng panics as he realizes the mutant has vanished. The group stops and looks around, noticing the creature is no longer there. Immediately, Ling Mo tries to listen for any sound nearby. The enemy then leaps at him, as a teammate yells out a warning about the aerial attack. Before the creature can strike him, Yi Lian appears and lands a powerful kick. With that, he hurls the zombie against a tree with the force of the impact. Smiling, Liu Yuhao shows confidence that Luke Xin will pay dearly with them around. Without wasting time, Ling Mo simply says to keep moving forward. Soon, the group approaches the abandoned school building. They stop in front of a marked door, and the boy points to the ground. Upon touching a puddle, he notices that the blood on his finger is still fresh. Liu Yuhao confirms it's Luke Xin's blood, who was completely covered in it. With that, Ling Mo decides they'll follow the blood trail, as long as it's not Shauna's. While climbing the stairs, Liu Yuhao urges his friend to hurry, who replies that he's doing his best. At the top of the stairs, Ling Mo stops and announces that they've arrived. He then walks through a destroyed hallway, following the trail of blood. Suddenly, a voice from the darkness announces that he's finally arrived. The boy reacts with an expression of pure irritation. From the shadows, Luke Xin appears with a deformed body and asks if he looks terrifying. Right after, he grabs his own face and screams that it's all Ling Mo's fault. At that moment, Liu Yuhao approaches and asks where the enemy is. With a sinister smile, Luke Xin realizes that everyone has finally arrived. The young man stares at him, shocked, and asks what happened to him. In response, the zombified one screams that he'd never be like this if it weren't for Ling Mo. He continues, claiming that it's his fault for coming back to the school with someone else. Coldly, Ling Mo analyzes that the transformation seems different from the others. He concludes that the enemy's body couldn't handle a high-purity virus from a mutant. Luke Xin then accuses him of doing nothing to save him when he had the chance. With contempt, the leader questions if he really thinks everyone should have taken care of him. Soon after, he ends the discussion and demands to know where Shauna is. The enemy just gives a low, restrained laugh. Then he shouts that he was abandoned and now seeks revenge. Luke Sin demands that, to see the girl, Ling Mo must cut off the hand he used to hit him. Upon hearing the threat, Yi Lion stares at him with a cold, intense gaze. The boy simply calls him an idiot, while his companion looks at him with disgust. However, Liu Yuhao intervenes and shouts for them to cut his hand instead. He raises a knife and argues that he abandoned him too, so he should pay the price. With that, the young man prepares to cut off his own hand with determination. Before he can, Ling Mo grabs his wrist tightly to stop him. Then he draws his own dagger and tells the boy to step back. He'll do it himself. Calmly, he explains that Luke Sin isn't a threat, just a worm. Right after, he takes a firm step to take the initiative. In the blink of an eye, he appears behind the enemy, taking him by surprise. The other can barely react, shocked by Ling Mo's speed. With a cold gaze, he simply commands him to go to hell. Immediately, the zombified boy is struck. Luke Sin is hit directly in the neck. Staggering, he asks how his rival can be so strong. The fighter spins his dagger and comments that the virus strengthened his resilience. He taunts him, asking how long he can keep dodging attacks. In the blink of an eye, he vanishes at high speed. Luke Sin looks around in panic, not knowing where he went. Suddenly, Ling Mo appears right in front of his face with a smile. Liu Yuhao is impressed, commenting on his incredible speed. Furious, Luke Sin glares at his opponent, his red eyes glowing intensely. With that, he shouts not to underestimate him. Ling Mo positions himself for another strike as the enemy's screams echo in the background. He then asks one last time where the girl is being held. Even wounded, Luke Sin challenges him to find her on his own, if he's capable. Next, he admits his opponent's strength, but swears he won't let them leave even if he dies. Ling Mo remains silent, just observing. As Luke Sin advances, he accuses him of abandoning him to be infected. He stares back, saying he wants to make him feel the same pain and despair. Soon after, he bursts into hysterical laughter. Without any further hesitation, the warrior charges forward and strikes Luke Sin with a single blow. With that, the lifeless body falls to the ground, shocking Liu Yuhao and his companion. Immediately, Ling Mo turns and orders them to find Shauna right now. The search leads them to a bunk room with a blood-stained ceiling. Inside, the girl is found on the floor, tied up and gagged. He then kicks the door of a locker, shouting her name. As he approaches, he asks if she's okay. Then he removes the gag from the young woman's mouth. Liu Yuhao stares at Shauna on the ground, saying in shock that it can't be her. He then turns to Ling Mo, asking if she's just messing with them. However, the other interrupts him, but Liu Yuhao shouts that it's impossible for her to be infected. Even so, he insists there must be some mistake. Then Ling Mo slaps him, telling him to calm down. With the noise, a knife falls to the ground beside them. Shauna watches the blade while he says they can still do something. In his mind, Ling Mo reflects that, unlike Luke Sin, the girl might have a less concentrated superinfection and might be saved. Yi Lion explains that salvation will only be possible if her body doesn't completely rot. With that, he asks his companion to take Shauna to a safe place, and Liu Yuhao agrees. The girl, however, thanks them and tells them to go back. At that moment, she murmurs that it's already too late, looking at the infection on her arm. Right after, she tries to reach for the fallen knife. Liu Yuhao shouts her name in shock. Then she points the blade at herself, declaring that she'd rather die than become a zombie and kill them. However, she attempts to stab the knife into her own neck. Seeing the scene, Ling Mo desperately calls for Yi Lian. With a swift movement, her hand manages to grab the blade in time. She then takes the knife and looks seriously at her friend. To be sure, Yi Lian throws the weapon to the other side of the room. The blade sticks into the wall, startling Wang Cheng. In fury, Shauna screams, asking why they stopped her. She says that if she stays, she'll end up infecting the others. Soon, the infection begins spreading more intensely. Shortly after, she curls up on the ground and begs them to leave her alone. Liu Yuhao approaches and asks worriedly how she's feeling. Sensing the danger, Ling Mo orders him to back away immediately. At that instant, Shauna glares at him with eyes full of rage. With unexpected strength, she hits her friend and yells at him to go away. Ling Mo watches in surprise, wondering if she's transforming. He realizes something's wrong, as the transformation shouldn't be happening this fast. Meanwhile, Shauna begs everyone to run, warning that she's about to lose control. Then she screams in pain. With that, she collapses to the ground, and Liu Yuhao shouts her name. Desperate, he asks what they should do, but the leader remains silent. He then questions if the girl is going to turn out like Luke Sin, but he's told to shut up so the other can think. Suddenly, Shauna's hand on the ground begins to tremble. Liu Yuhao exclaims excitedly that she's still alive, but is told to stop again. She remains on the floor, visibly shaking. Then, surrounded by a dark aura, she slowly rises. Looking at Ling Mo, she murmurs for him to give her something. Surprised, he wonders if she might still be conscious. She approaches and he watches her in confusion. With a pleading expression, Shauna repeats the request. Suddenly, Ling Mo's eyes glow red as he shouts the same phrase with a smile. His expression returns to normal, and he observes the scene seriously. Out of nowhere, Yi Lian rushes forward and grabs Shauna. With a single blow, she knocks the girl down, who cries out from the impact. Ling Mo then asks his companion not to hurt her, while the girl on the ground continues to plead. With red eyes, she repeats frantically for him to give her something. He stares at her, beginning to understand what she wants. Then he shows a small pouch with green gels and asks if that's what she was asking for. Shauna screams at Ling Mo, demanding that he give her the fruits immediately. Meanwhile, he wonders if her instincts are leading her to something that might resist the transformation. Then the girl grabs her own head, screaming that it feels like it's going to explode. Faced with this, Ling Mo realizes that if they keep waiting, it'll be too late. So he yells for the others to get out, saying she can still be saved as time is running out. Wang Cheng agrees to obey, but Liu Yuhao still hesitates for a moment. Soon after, the door slams shut. Then, Ling Mo takes out a green gel from the package, hoping it might help. He brings the gel to her mouth, and she consumes it. The girl winces in pain as she swallows. Surprisingly, she seems to feel better and wonders if it's working. Shortly after, she grabs his jacket tightly. Looking at him with red eyes, she desperately asks for more. Ling Mo is startled, as he doesn't understand how her body could withstand another high-purity virus gel. Next to them, Yi Lian watches the scene with a surprised expression. She asks if her friend is evolving, while the girl writhes in pain, begging for the fruits. Then, her neck begins to tremble. Her feet also twist from the pain of the transformation. Faced with that, Ling Mo holds the last gel, stating that there's no turning back now. Wishing her good luck, he brings the gel to her mouth. Shauna then quickly swallows the second item. For a moment, she seems to process the gel's effect. Shortly after, her eyes open slowly, still dazed. Yi Lian holds her and says to let her go, because now she will decide her own future. Suddenly, Wang Cheng bursts through the door, shouting that a large number of zombies are heading their way. Thus, Ling Mo concludes that the creatures must have been attracted by the earlier noise. With that, he orders Yi Lian to take care of the girl while the others should grab their things and follow him. However, Liu Yuhao asks for a second to go retrieve something. Soon after, he's seen dragging a body out of the building. Meanwhile, Ling Mo stabs a zombie approaching them in the chest. As Yi Lian carries Shauna, the leader yells for everyone to hurry. Wang Cheng runs breathless, surprised by the human potential under threat. Suddenly, Liu Yuhao returns and excitedly shouts that he managed to get the item. The other looks at him in disbelief, asking if he went back just to get that. Liu Yuhao then explains that it's Shauna's treasure and she would be really upset if she lost it. Ling Mo comments that he went through a lot for her, but the boy denies that it's because he likes her. Then he clarifies that he just has great appreciation for her, because without Shauna, he'd already be dead. The other cuts him off, saying it's not the time for a conversation, and both move forward. They finally find a safe shelter as the sun sets. Inside, Ling Mo orders Yi Lian to take the girl to a room while the others guard the door. Shortly after, Liu Yuhao asks if she's really going to be okay. Yi Lian, with the girl in her arms, says she's been sleeping for a while. Suddenly, Shauna's eye opens, glowing in intense red. The unexpected reaction makes Ling Mo shout in alarm. Right after, she strikes Yi Lian with a strong slap. Surrounded by a powerful aura, she slowly stands up. Liu Yuhao calls out to Ling Mo, confused, while the other orders them to get out. With that, the leader turns and orders the boys to guard the door, no matter what happens inside. Then he firmly yells for them not to enter under any circumstances. Thus, he finds Shauna standing in a strange posture, while Yi Lian watches. Then he tries to call her attention, asking if it's really her. Soon, the companion concludes that if Shauna still recognizes her name, there must be some consciousness. Even so, he insists on calling her again. Suddenly, the girl lunges at him, eyes glowing. With the impact, the young man is thrown back while shouting her name. Immediately, he asks Yi Lian to help him calm her down. Outside, Liu Yuhao anxiously asks if Shauna is okay, but Wang Cheng doesn't know how to respond. Upon realizing the noise has stopped, they decide to check what happened. However, his companion stops him, insisting that Ling Mo told them to stay away. Then, Liu Yuhao shouts, asking if everything is alright, and he replies for them not to come in. While Yi Lian tries to restrain her, the young man asks that they just keep watch at the door, because he will handle the situation. Shauna keeps struggling, thinking that if it continues, both of them will get hurt. Seeing how difficult it is, the leader decides he needs to attempt a spiritual connection. Then he focuses to begin the process. As soon as he touches her forehead, a blue light connects the two. With that, the girl's eyes open in a different color and she calms down. Then she asks what he is doing. Surprised, the young man asks if she's really speaking. Then he tells her that her name is Shauna and asks if she remembers. She only repeats her name, seeming to process the information. Suddenly, she shouts that her head hurts a lot. Immediately, he yells for Yi Lian to restrain her. Soon, the ally pushes her back onto the bed. The young man points again, focusing the connection on a specific point. Then he closes his eyes and enters a state of deep concentration. In an ethereal realm, He wonders if this is Shauna's mental space. Then he spots her spiritual form trapped by energy and confirms he's found her. As he approaches, he notices how chaotic her spiritual power is. Meanwhile, in the real world, Lian realizes that two different consciousnesses are clashing. With that, Shauna screams while her companion wonders if there are two personalities inside. Inside the mental plane, Mo decides there's no time and he needs to establish the connection first. Then his blue and red energies collide violently. He commands the energy to enter her. Thus, a beam of blue light shoots toward Shauna's spiritual form. Upon being struck, she screams in pain. Soon, the blue energy begins to merge with the red aura. With the fusion, a bond of energy forms, indicating a new connection. Finally, the two spirits are linked by the thread of energy. Back in the real world, he wakes up gasping and exhausted. Looking out the window, he realizes night has already fallen and a lot of time has passed. Lian, sitting next to the girl, thinks it was lucky her spiritual power wasn't weakened. Suddenly, Liu Yuhao bursts through the door calling for Shauna. Now calm, she turns to look in his direction. Relieved, he shakes her shoulders, celebrating that she didn't turn into a zombie. Seeing the scene, Ling Mo furiously shouts not to touch her. Immediately, the girl's eyes glow with red energy. Moments later, Liu Yuhao is forcefully thrown against the wall. Shauna then lunges at him with a swift attack. Lying on the ground, the boy shouts Shauna's name as she rushes to strike him. At that moment, the energy thread quickly extends. Immediately, the group's leader uses the connection to pull her back, commanding her to stop. Startled, the young man asks what happened to her. Soon, he replies that it might be some kind of after effect. He then explains that his power is limited, and asks everyone to leave her alone so she doesn't go insane. Even so, the other laments, not understanding how she ended up like that. With that, the one responsible for the connection reminds him he's lucky she's not dead or like Luke Sin. The companion agrees, admitting that at least the girl doesn't show hatred toward him. In his thoughts, the more experienced one reflects that he would have already eliminated the other if it weren't for his ability to control zombies. After the chaos, the group decides to rest in shifts. The night goes on, with the full moon shining in the sky. Later, the boy sits with her and asks if she still remembers him. The young woman turns her face to the side, as if reacting to hearing her own name. Upon seeing that, the observer notices she seems to have a reaction to her name. Meanwhile, Lian concludes that both she and the other girl have awareness, but hers is less stable. Suddenly, the boy's gaze falls on a sword on the shelf, and he seems to have an idea. He then picks it up and asks if she remembers that object. Upon seeing the sword, the girl seems to recognize it instantly. In a swift motion, she snatches it from his hand. Then she sits on the bed, hugging the object protectively. Calmly, he extends his hand and asks her to return the item. In response, the young woman pulls back, crawling to the back of the bed. She then curls up in the corner, holding the weapon tightly. Confused, he wonders why she's so attached to that object. In a firmer tone, the boy steps forward and demands that she give him the sword. Unexpectedly, the girl kicks him square in the face. With the impact, he's pushed backward while she watches him with her leg extended. Right after, the injured boy falls with blood dripping from his nose. Shocked by her own reaction, she can't believe what she just did. Lying on the ground with blood flowing, the boy concludes that having something to believe in is better than being a zombie. Then, the girl simply turns and leaves the room. With his body exhausted, he leans against the wall and vents about how tired he is. Soon, Lian sits next to him, and the boy tells himself to rest for the new day to come. The next morning, a new day begins under the hot sun. Suddenly, knocks at the door call for him, with Wang Cheng shouting that something happened. Still sleepy, the young man opens the door and asks what's going on. At that moment, his companion reports that he saw humans on the street, making him wonder about survivors. Immediately, he decides they need to go check. Looking outside, the two find a street filled with zombies attacking cars. Amid the chaos, a red-haired leader organizes the people into defensive teams. Meanwhile, one of the civilians breaks a car window with a shovel, trying to protect himself. The commander then orders them to attack the approaching zombies first. While fighting, he shouts for everyone to hang in there and find an opening to escape. From the window, the observer analyzes the scene and finds the situation interesting. He follows the applied strategy, noting that as they cover each other, the group's strength increases. With a smile, he thinks that this is what one could call a true team of survivors. Suddenly, an axe bursts through their building's door. As soon as the door gives way, the leader of the other group orders the teams to fall back, while others provide cover. Panicking, Liu Yuhao warns that the newcomers have entered the building and will attract the zombies inside. In disbelief, the group's leader puts a hand to his face, wondering if this is some kind of joke. While zombies advanced up the stairs, Lei Yu and his companion blocked them at the top. Using improvised weapons, the two pierced the creatures' heads. Amidst the chaos, the young man shouted to his partner that they needed to get inside the room now. Then he kicked the door open forcefully himself. Right after, he ordered everyone to enter the room quickly. However, the enemies were already too close, nearly reaching them. Suddenly, the ally was grabbed by the creatures and cried out desperately for help. On the other side of the door, the group leader silently watched the situation unfold. Liu Yuhao then asked what was happening, and he deduced they wanted to use the building to escape through the other side. Confused, the boy simply repeated the mention of the other side. The more experienced one then explained that the building had a lake and a square around it, offering space to break free from the zombie siege. Finally, he confirmed that this was the reason he had chosen the place, making the other understand. At that moment, the two heard a cry for help coming from outside. The older one remarked how fast they'd arrived, while his companion asked if they should help them. He replied that with over 30 zombies out there, it would be impossible to assist without getting everyone trapped. The young man was left speechless, not knowing how to respond to the suggestion. The strategist then said they should get out of there by jumping from the building, leaving the other in disbelief at the idea. Meanwhile, the girl was instructed to go ahead with Yi Lion to clear the way. Without hesitation, both moved quickly toward the window. Soon, the boy shouted that they were on the 4th floor when he saw the two outside. With agility, they landed on the air-conditioned units attached to the wall. Then they used the units as footholds to descend quickly to the ground. From the window, the observer watched the scene completely astonished. As soon as they hit the ground, a group of zombies emerged from the nearby forest. The creatures advanced menacingly toward them. Within seconds, the horde was about to reach them. Suddenly, the enemies stopped, seeming to hesitate before the two. With glowing red eyes, both released a powerful energy aura. Soon, countless red blasts sliced through the air at high speed. And with that, the zombies were completely destroyed by the overwhelming attack. After the strike, the girls remained in a combat stance, their eyes still glowing. From the window, Liu Yuhao shouted that their display of power was incredible. Then, a rope was thrown down from the 4th floor. The commander then sat on the windowsill and announced that it was time to descend. As he slid down the rope, he said that the fall wouldn't be fatal since there was grass below. With that, he gave the others only 2 minutes to decide whether they would jump or not. At that moment, the door behind the two began to be heavily struck. Soon after, a zombie broke through the passage, and the young man's friend shouted that they were coming. The boy insisted they had no choice but to jump, but he hesitated. Then his partner pressured him to leap, asking if he preferred to be devoured. Finally, the hesitant one made up his mind, gathering the courage to do what was necessary. He quickly grabbed the rope and started descending the side of the building. Shortly after, both landed on the ground near the feet of the group's leader. The man then ordered them to get up so they could leave immediately. At the same moment, zombies began desperately throwing themselves from the upper floor window. Soon, those who jumped smashed violently onto the ground. Meanwhile, other nearby creatures watched the scene silently. Seeing the enemies, the warrior displayed intense fury, ready to attack again. The team leader then commented that she had entered her rage mode, possibly due to having killed too many zombies. He, on the other hand, thought he needed to strengthen his control as it wasn't the right time for her to lose it. Immediately, he shouted for everyone to get out of there. With that, the group ran into the forest, leaving behind the zombies who remained just watching. As soon as they reached the courtyard, the leader shouted for everyone to keep moving. Right after, Liu Yuhao pointed ahead, saying he had found the other survivors. The group's leader observed them fighting in the distance and commented that they were moving very quickly. To avoid trouble, he then ordered a detour. However, the path was blocked by more zombies. Seeing the creatures approaching, the more experienced one decided they needed to kill them first. With that, everyone prepared to face the new advancing horde. Elsewhere in the city, Liu struck with his improvised weapon. After much effort, he finally managed to defeat all the enemies around him. His companion then warned him that others were fighting nearby. Liu looked in the pointed direction and confirmed it was true. Back in the fight, the other group attacked the enemies fiercely. At the same time, Yi Lion landed a powerful kick to a creature's head. Even scared, the young man and his friend also fought the zombies with knives. Watching the scene from afar, the warrior commented on how powerful the strangers were. With that, he shouted to his team that they should go help the other survivors. The boy then informed that the other team was approaching to help, and the leader ordered them to keep fighting. As the two groups joined together, they continued eliminating the remaining zombies. Soon the battle ended, and everyone gathered among the creatures' corpses. Liu then praised the other commander, impressed that he didn't seem tired after killing so many. He then apologized for the trouble and invited the group to his survivor camp. The newcomer asked about the place, and the guide confirmed they had established one. Meanwhile, Liu Yuhao reflected, exhausted, that he shouldn't keep his friends around anymore, since both allies were mutant zombies. Right after, he thought that Liu was strong despite seeming foolish, and that he would need to find a good place for him. The leader then asked where the camp was, to which the answer was Jinko Community. With that, Liu extended his hand, saying their boss would be glad to receive strong people like the new ally. He agreed to check out the place and asked them to lead the way as he removed his hood. Then he placed a hat on Shauna, who cheerfully agreed to go along. He thought that, even though she was stable, it was better to use a disguise to avoid problems. Shortly after, the survivors arrived at a large walled apartment complex. The host announced that they had arrived, and the visitor noted the place looked good. It was explained that they took turns with lookouts on the upper floor to alert them of danger. Then Liu climbed a ladder, revealing that the camp was set up on the second floor for better security. Inside the camp, A woman with glasses was recording Team 2's report, which had 2 injured and 2 dead. Soon after, she instructed 2 men to drop the supplies they were carrying in a specific spot. The newcomer then asked what they were doing, and the captain explained they were tracking gains and losses, introducing himself as the one in charge of the team. The woman continued listing the collected items, which included food, water, feminine products, and cigarettes. While scolding a guy for having taken cigarettes, the observer silently watched the discussion. From that, he concluded that the camp was very well organized, indicating its leader wasn't an ordinary person. The host then cheerfully invited them to meet the boss, who would be happy to receive them. In a nearby room, Wang Lin was calmly sucking on a lollipop. Suddenly, she asked Lai Yu if there were new people and told him to introduce them to her. Surprised to see her, the boy greeted her, calling her sister Lin. The master scolded him for taking 3 days to gather supplies, saying she thought he had died on the way. Embarrassed, he simply replied that he could never compare to her. Lai Yu then introduced Wang Lin, explaining that she was a master in the camp and respected even by the chief. Completely shocked, the new member was speechless as he began to recognize her. With a swift motion, Wang Lin spun her chair to face them. Then she slammed her boot on the table with authority. Upon finally seeing her face, the boy exclaimed Wang Lin's name in surprise. Soon, Lai Yu and Wang Lin turned to Ling Mo and Shauna, who entered an office. Then the woman questioned the boy for bringing them, but he confirmed they had come to see the boss. The newcomer stared at her in shock, thinking she had survived. Suddenly, Wang Lin pointed at the group with a startled expression. Lai Yu asked if he knew her, explaining that this sister Lin was really tough. With that, Ling Mo understood that the woman must hold an important position there. The host then turned to Shauna, surprised that she was alive too. Soon after, she approached, saying that a hat wouldn't stop her from recognizing her. Frightened, the boy remembered that Wang Lin was Shauna's cousin. Annoyed, she demands the other to say something, but receives only silence in return. Wang Lin complains that her cousin always keeps the same blank expression. Then she comments that people like her are hard to kill and asks if she's disappointed to see her alive. The observer notices that the other seems a bit hurt by the young woman's indifference. Irritated, the woman says she doesn't want to see that serious face anymore. Finally, she turns to the stranger and Yi Lian, asking who they are. The young man is shocked to think that, even after being neighbors for so many years, she doesn't recognize him. Facing her, he says he thinks he's seen her somewhere before. Then he remembers she was just an ordinary person, someone no one would notice in a crowd. Suddenly, the shine of an object on the young man's belt catches Shauna's cousin's attention. She immediately accuses him of stealing her dagger and asks why he's with the other one. Confused by the accusation, Ling Mo repeats the word stole. Angrily, Wang Lin extends her hand and demands he return the dagger she forged herself. Lai Yu then states that the weapon belongs to Sister Lin and orders the visitor to hand it over. The woman also questions why he refuses to give it back. She yells that it's the first satisfactory dagger she ever forged and calls him a thief for taking it from her shop. The young man argues that, with the world having ended, he risked his life to get the item from an abandoned store and therefore won't return it. The blacksmith glares at him, furious and speechless. Immediately after, she insists she doesn't care and yells that it's her first masterpiece. While she demands the dagger back, the other firmly refuses to hand it over. At that moment, a voice from the doorway asks Lin who she's fighting with this time. A white-haired man appears behind Lai Yu, commenting on the hectic day. Immediately, the companion turns excitedly to greet the boss and introduces Shauna as Lin's cousin. With that, Song Tian shows surprise, saying he remembered there were no survivors from her house. The outsider observes the scene, realizing the woman may seem tough, but actually cares deep down. Suddenly, the boss turns his face toward Ling Mo. Song Tian recognizes him and compliments him for killing the mutant zombie that day. Then he notices Yi Lian and assumes she's the girl who was with him. Lai Yu then formally introduces his boss, Song Tian. With a gesture, the leader asks them to drop the formalities and just call him by name. The visitor shakes his hand and introduces himself, beginning to explain his connection to Shauna. He hesitates, thinking he needs to keep the girl under control so she doesn't transform. The young man then says they're all her friends, and the boss celebrates the encounter as fate. Wang Lin interrupts the conversation, demanding that the other return her dagger immediately. He looks at her and reaffirms that he won't give it back. Song Tian steps in to calm things down, while the young man argues that he found the dagger while risking his life. The boss suggests to the woman that since she's reunited with her cousin, she should sit down and talk calmly. Arms crossed, the outsider listens silently while the other asks him what he thinks. Already seated, the host apologizes, saying that Liu Yuhao told him their team caused trouble for the group. Shauna's cousin turns her face to the side, still annoyed by the situation. The guest gives a faint smile, preparing to speak. He then explains that they were living in peace until their group arrived, forcing them to abandon their shelter and supplies. Behind him, the boy whispers that they didn't have supplies, but is silenced by his companion. The leader apologizes again, and the other asks him to just call him by name. Then he says he doesn't want compensation, but the dagger is a different story. Song Tian smiles and agrees, saying the item can stay with him without issue. The decision enrages Wang Lin, who explodes in fury behind a startled Song Tian. The boss then thinks the trade is worth it to have a master like Ling Mo, even if Ling gets angry. The woman stomps her foot, declaring that she'll take the dagger back herself. Before she can reach him, the young man quickly grabs her hand in the air. With a serious look, he warns her not to think he wouldn't hurt her just because she's Shauna's cousin. She pulls her hand back and tells him not to get upset, asking what the big deal is. Next, she turns away, saying she needs some fresh air and is going for a walk. With a final glance, she slams the door as she leaves the room. Soon, Song Tian apologizes again for the confusion and invites the visitor to join his camp. He declines the offer, explaining that he and the girls have other urgent matters to deal with. However, he suggests that his friends might be able to help the local leaders group. With that, the chief turns to Liu Yuhao and his companion, asking if they'd like to join. Wang Cheng eagerly raises his hand, accepting the invitation immediately. He reflects that he can't follow his former companion forever, since he wouldn't care if he died and Shauna is now a zombie. Song Tian gladly welcomes him, assuring that he'll be well treated as part of the team. Then the host asks if Liu Yuhao has any concerns before making his decision. The young man looks toward his friend for a sign and receives a positive nod in response. Soon after, he also confirms that he'll join the camp. The leader celebrates excitedly, saying that the arrival of new members is a reason to celebrate. He then suggests that the visitors spend the night, but the group refuses due to a commitment. Song Tan understands, saying he won't force them and hopes to meet them again someday. So the trio says their goodbyes and turns to leave together. Just as they're leaving, Liu Yuhao runs down the hallway and calls out to his former ally. He asks if his friend wants to say something, and the boy begs him to take good care of Shauna. He goes on, asking that she be brought back to life, or at least not abandoned. Then he bows in a desperate gesture of pleading. His companion reflects on how rare it is to find such a loyal friend in the midst of the end of the world. With that, he places a hand on the boy's shoulder and tells him to take care too. As he turns away, the young man calls him back, asking him to wait. He then promises that one day he'll grow stronger so they can meet again. The other just offers a slight smile in response. He encourages him, wishing that he keeps on fighting. As he walks away, he thinks that even if they don't meet again, hope still remains. From the window, Wang Lin watches the group walking away. She thinks to herself, determined to recover her dagger. Song Tian approaches and asks if she did something, but the woman replies that it's none of his business. With a sigh, the chief places a hand on his forehead, tired of her behavior. Outside, zombies wander through the city. In an instant, Elian charges forward and attacks one of the creatures. With glowing red eyes, she defeats the monsters around her. The other creatures react and come charging in. The group leader watches the fight and comments that she can easily handle all of them. Even so, he confesses that he's very worried about Shauna's condition. He thinks that his companion is unstable and out of control. Meanwhile, the warrior continues to destroy another zombie in her path. Soon she stops over the bodies of the defeated monsters on the ground. The boy then declares that it's enough and that they should head upstairs. They arrive at a cafe in the middle of a completely destroyed street. Inside, the group sits down to rest near the window. Suddenly, he notices an energy rising around Yilian. He soon comments that it looks like she can't hold it back anymore. With a smile, he says it's time for her to eat, as she hasn't fed in days. The leader opens the door, saying they need to make sure the place is safe first. With that, he comments that luckily they killed enough mutant zombies to feed his ally. Right after, the girl grabs him from behind unexpectedly. He then calms her down, promising that soon she'll have something to eat. While opening a package, he thinks it's better to give her one with low concentration first. Then he offers the green gel for her to eat. Looking at the package, he wonders if the gels have fused together. At that moment, Ling Mo looked at the plastic bag in confusion, trying to understand what had happened. Upon examining it, he noticed the total volume was smaller and wondered if the gels had devoured each other. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain. Moments later, Sean appeared in front of him, demanding more. The boy then calculated that he'd need 2 gels every 48 hours if it continued like that. With that, he questioned whether she was trying to break the control to get the gels. Realizing the urgency, he decided he had to hand them over. He then offered the gel. Next, he placed the item directly into her mouth. Shauna immediately showed that it tasted bad. Soon after, she curled up as her body trembled. Worried, he called her name. The girl then lifted her face, now with a calm and embarrassed expression. Then she remained silent for a moment. The unexpected reaction left him completely stunned. Suddenly, the young man felt a powerful spiritual wave coming from her. Sensing the danger, he decided he needed to calm her down so she wouldn't escape. As soon as he grabbed the girl's arm, he felt how cold her skin was. He was confused as her body was red, but the temperature was low. As they looked at each other, he wondered what was going on between them. Unexpectedly, Shauna hugged him tightly. He smiled in relief, thinking the danger had finally passed. As he laid her on the couch, he thought she had nearly broken his control. Then, sitting beside her, he reflected on the look she had given him. With that, he opened her eye to check, wondering if he had been mistaken. He remembered that she saved many lives, but was betrayed and became a zombie. Next, he thought the same had happened to Yi Lian, who only transformed because of him. Deciding it was useless to dwell on it, he prepared to give a gel to his other companion. While feeding her, he recalled how painful the process had been last time. Yi Lian then began breathing heavily, enduring the transformation. He realized the change was about to begin. Soon he felt the strong murderous intent emanating from her. With that, the spiritual pressure began to overwhelm him. The red energy then poured completely over him. Terrified, he realized he had almost lost control over the girl. Even so, he noticed that this sensation was different from before. Her desire to kill and destroy was extremely intense. Despite that, he felt no pain and even felt strangely comfortable. The comfort was so great that it made him want to stop resisting the influence. With effort, he fought against that sudden urge, because he recognized Yi Lian's fierce murderous intent in that feeling. Next, he slammed his hand on the table, realizing he was about to lose control. The sensation in his body was strange and left him panicked. Soon, he screamed as he realized he was transforming into a zombie. As the night slowly passed under a cloudy sky, suddenly, Shauna lay down on the couch with her dagger. The young man then struggled to control himself, determined not to become a zombie. In a desperate act, he broke off a piece of wood to try to distract himself. Quickly, he looked around for anything to divert his attention. At that moment, Yi Lian seemed to notice his agitation. He took a deep breath, sweating in relief for a moment. Without thinking, he moved forward and grabbed his companion. While holding her face, he called her name. Her lips parted slightly. The girl stared at him with eyes now violet in color. Then he kissed her and asked for forgiveness in his mind. The kiss between them lasted for a moment. When he pulled away, the transformation had been contained. Yi Lian remained still, looking at him with a confused expression. He then sighed deeply, covered in sweat. Next, a drop rolled down and fell onto the girl. Her eyes began to glow red again with renewed intensity. With a new surge, he kissed her again. Soon, the two fell back, continuing the intense kiss. The sound of heavy breathing echoed through the silent room. After a while, both were lying exhausted on the floor. The young man then smiled, thinking he didn't care what others thought of her, because to him, she would always be the one who owned his heart. Suddenly, a terrible realization struck him. He remembered that in past situations, the virus spread through blood. With his hand on his mouth, he wondered about transmission through saliva. He concluded that if she had swallowed a virus gel, he could have drunk the virus too. He feared that if he underwent a mutation, his partner would fall out of his control and never regain consciousness. Looking at the couch, he realized the same would happen to Shauna. With a faint smile, he found the twist in the situation interesting. Next, he used his energy bond ability. Meanwhile, the young woman remained still, connected to him by that thread. Then he hugged her, thinking about how the first kiss he had wanted so badly ended up being fatal to him. Looking at the clock on the wall, he noticed that 10 minutes had passed. He then continued to watch the coins on the table, waiting for a sign. Suddenly, he felt an intense heat, as if his body were on fire. With that, he pulled a coin from his pocket to test his reflexes. Even with the heat, he realized his consciousness and judgment were clear. He remembered, though, that Shauna and Liu had also had clear minds in the beginning. With that, he feared he would rot to death gradually, just like them. Resolved, he thought he'd rather turn into a zombie than face that end. Looking at Shauna, he finally understood what she had felt in the past. He then faced the future with an expression of acceptance. Even so, he stated that he didn't regret his choice. At the very least, he would still have her by his side instead of watching her turn into a lunatic. While holding her in the silent room, he whispered her name. Then he thought that, if he finally became a zombie, he hoped to at least retain a fragment of his own consciousness. As the clock's hand moves forward, it marks the countdown. Moreover, each tick intensifies the tension in the room. With that, the boy hugs Yi Lian from behind, waiting anxiously. Suddenly, the clock chimes loudly to mark the hour. To his surprise, 20 minutes have passed and he still feels fine. At that moment, the girl asks if saliva wouldn't be infectious. Upon hearing this, he smiles, relieved to know it's not contagious. Right after, he suggests they need more kisses to calm themselves. In this way, he concludes he can get close as long as he avoids touching her blood. Unexpectedly, Yi Lian turns and touches his face. He asks, surprised, what she's doing. Then he pushes her back slightly, thinking she's just playing around. However, he realizes he's not controlling her at that moment. Next, he wonders if this could be her own consciousness acting. To his shock, the young woman moves her hand across her own dress, leaving him speechless. He watches her serious expression and wonders if she's returned to normal. With that, he understands the gels are gradually helping her regain her awareness. Following that, he decides to test her strength after the evolution. So he proposes a game while touching a few coins. The challenge is for her to catch the coin before it hits the ground. He then prepares, holding the coin firmly. Right after, he flicks it into the air. Instantly, the girl lunges and catches the coin midair. He's impressed by her incredible speed. Excited, he decides to test her with more coins at once. The young woman stares at him with a highly focused gaze. With a quick movement, she grabs another coin in the air. With agility, she catches one and already moves toward the next. However, two of them end up falling to the ground. Even so, she keeps a serious and determined expression. Unexpectedly, she kicks the coins that fell. Right after, she launches them back into the air with a precise kick. He's amazed by her incredible display of skill. He then realizes that her speed resembles that of a wild leopard. He reflects that her evolution is linked to his, mainly in speed and agility. With that, he begins to wonder if he also received the same enhancement this time. So he decides to go for a run to test his own agility. But as he takes the first step, his foot slips unexpectedly. He falls, realizing that his speed is much higher than he imagined. Out of control, he heads straight toward the couch where Shauna is sleeping. The impact sends pillows flying, hitting her as she watches the scene. Right after, he sits on the floor, relieved he didn't get hurt. Suddenly, he notices something strange and his eyes widen in surprise. He realizes he touched something soft. Still drowsy, Shauna calls him a pervert with an irritated expression. The boy is shocked as he unintentionally holds her amid the confusion. That unexpected touch makes the girl react with a start. For a moment, he admits to himself that the sensation is pleasant. Right after, he pushes the thought aside and realizes she just spoke. With her awareness returning, Shauna asks in confusion if she knows him. The young man lights up upon realizing her consciousness has come back. However, her eyes turn red and she seems to transform into a zombie again. He then wonders if the instinct of self-preservation might have awakened her dormant consciousness. With that in mind, he looks at his hand and starts getting an idea. Next, he approaches and asks if he can touch her one more time to test it. Shauna refuses the proposal, frantically shaking her head in panic. Seeing her reaction, he confirms that his plan worked. With that, he pushes her against the couch and suggests 2 or 3 pinches, leaving her speechless. With a victorious smile, he takes her hesitation as agreement. While confirming his plan is working, the girl begs him desperately to stop. Right after, she yells in anger and tries to get up to push him away. The boy is completely surprised by her intense reaction. Seeing her appearance change, he wonders if he overstimulated her. Shauna glares at him with a furious look and completely red eyes. Shortly after, her appearance returns to normal, and he understands that this can't be rushed. Despite that, he smiles with satisfaction at Yilian's progress and Shauna's development. With that in mind, he decides they should celebrate, but doesn't know how. Suddenly, he has an idea and clasps his hands with excitement. Outside, the night goes on with zombies roaming the streets. Inside the house, Yilian and Shauna sit together on the couch, waiting for the celebration. The young man then opens a can of drink with a pop. Next, he gulps down the entire contents of the can in big swigs. Satisfied, he tosses the can away and comments on how good the drink was. Even though it was the last one, he opens another can, happy to celebrate the day. He remarks that even if their consciousness doesn't last long, the progress is already enough. The two listen to him, and he believes both might be able to recover in the future. Additionally, he reflects that his enhanced speed is the most useful ability against threats. Suddenly, he gets up and feels a slight dizziness from the drink. To get some fresh air, he opens the window, satisfied with the alcohol's effect. Unexpectedly, he hears a strange sound coming from the street. Meanwhile, downstairs, the sound of breaking glass draws the zombie's attention. Hearing this, he can't believe it, since no one had passed by in days. Moments later, a blue-haired zombie in a maid outfit appears at the door. Her hand is holding another zombie's hand. Then she grumbles, disappointed to find only other zombies instead of a human. With that, the blue-haired creature lets out a furious roar at the others. He watches the scene from the window, completely shocked by what he sees. Then he realizes the new zombie is attacking others of her own kind. Watching the fight, he reflects that even a zombie knows that night is the best time to kill. He finds it interesting to see an undead being surrounded while attacking others of the same species. Furiously, the blue-haired zombie roars and overpowers one of the enemies. Next, she grabs another by the neck with impressive strength. However, as he observes, the young man feels that something about that scene is off. Suddenly, he becomes suspicious. He soon wonders about her true nature. Thus, the young man watches, finding it interesting that other zombies begin to attack the blue-haired girl. Then he wonders if the wound on her body is attracting the other undead. With that, the zombie roars and charges furiously at the horde. With a swift move, she breaks the arm of one of the enemies attacking her. The limb is thrown far away from the force of the blow. Without hesitation, another undead bites her on the shoulder. Right after, she strikes the attacker, pushing him away. The others react to the injury she has suffered. At that moment, he confirms that wounds on zombies can also attract others of the same kind. Suddenly, a cloud of dust rises as more creatures surround her. The fighter then attacks another enemy, noticing that he is much stronger than normal. The observer realizes they rarely go for the head and wonders if their real goal is to consume the gels. Unexpectedly, a mysterious zombie appears, predicting that the fight is about to end. Defying the prediction, the blue-haired girl attacks him and bites his neck. With that, the man and the others collapse to the ground, completely defeated. As another creature bites her, she roars amid the battle. Even wounded, she continues roaring with fury while being overpowered by the opponent. Then she strikes back with a powerful blow that cracks on impact. However, a surprise attack hits her from behind, slamming her to the ground with force. With that, a bald zombie reveals himself as the winner of the fight. The young man observes the scene, thinking how resilient the warrior was and how effective she was at ambushes. After that, he steps away from the window, deciding he's seen enough. As he turns, he's startled to see Shauna standing right behind him. He then wonders if the blood attracted her or if she was just interested in the fight. He reflects that Shauna's consciousness is more preserved and questions if the situation affects her. Suddenly, the young woman begins to tremble, feeling a powerful urge taking over her. Looking outside, he is shocked to see the bald zombie is about to evolve. On the ground, the creature is surrounded by a red aura as it begins its transformation. With a burst of energy, its body expands, gaining muscles and spikes. Fully transformed, the new muscular zombie roars under the moonlight. He smiles as he identifies the enemy as a mutant, even if it doesn't look that strong. Soon, a new horde of zombies appears, apparently attracted by the presence of the mutant. With that in mind, he decides to give Shauna a chance to capture the enemy for research. However, he changes his mind upon realizing the girl is not in a stable state, so he asks Lion to go in her place and be quick. Meanwhile, the mutant roars and leaps to attack another undead. With a swift blow, its hand crushes the opponent's head. Then it slams another one to the ground with brutal force. Right after, one bites its shoulder violently. The observer watches the fight, admitting that the mutant has some skill. Suddenly, he realizes that the creature is only eating the parts of the body that contain the gels. With this observation, he remembers that Lion used to act the same way in the past. After finishing its meal, the mutant wipes its mouth, looking satisfied. Seeing his chance, he decides it's time for Lion to attack. Immediately, she charges at the enemy for combat. The creature turns in alarm upon sensing a presence approaching. Right after, the young woman attacks it from behind with a precise strike to the neck. With the overwhelming victory assured, he watches the scene, satisfied with the result. Back at the base, he gathers with the girls around the captured zombie for analysis. Then he puts on his gloves, announcing that it's time to begin the work. Soon after, he places his daggers on the tray Shauna is holding. With a sinister smile, he prepares to begin an in-depth study of the captured zombie. With a flashlight, the group lights up the dark interior of the place. Meanwhile, the boy examines a zombie with a serious expression on his face. While Shauna holds the light, he cracks his neck and gets ready for dissection. Afterward, he places the dirty dagger on a tray and announces he's finished. Then he holds up the vein-shaped material that was extracted. He explains that this network exists throughout the zombie's body, especially in the brain. Upon smelling the sample, he realizes the scent is similar to a gel. Suddenly, a new possibility comes to his mind. With that, he quickly strikes the head of another zombie with the dagger. Right after, he observes the result of the precise blow. Then he removes a green nodule and confirms it's what he was looking for. He explains that he extracted this part from the enemy's brain, and that the gel can exist in normal zombies, but in an invisible form. He concludes that the undead kill each other to absorb more virus and evolve. He reveals that a mutant zombie already contains a virus gel, which condenses and causes other viruses to devour one another. Upon hearing the theory that the gel might restore consciousness, Shauna and Wang Lin look at him seriously. He uses Shauna as an example, explaining that she formed her gel before the brain infection was complete, softening the effects. Even though it's just a theory, he smiles confidently that he's right. With that, he states that if his theory is correct, Lion will finally regain consciousness. Shauna then questions him, asking why he's smiling like that. He simply keeps smiling with his eyes closed, without giving a direct answer. Then he points at Shauna, who reacts by saying she feels fine, but that her breasts are small. The girl repeats the word in confusion, looking down at herself. Suddenly, he changes the subject, ordering them to throw out the body, since the smell of blood will attract zombies. Soon, Shauna and Lion help him push the corpse toward a window. Then they toss the body out of the building. Lion laments seeing her white dress completely ruined. After a while, the sky outside is already bright, so he takes the girls to a clothing store so they can change. While they go in, he stands guard outside. Suddenly, a horde of zombies appears and charges in his direction. Immediately, he uses his ability to immobilize the approaching enemies. Then he shouts for the girls to kill the monsters. Soon, the two of them charge forward and attack the immobilized zombies. After the battle, he hurries Lion to change clothes and get out of there as quickly as possible. Then he helps her change behind the fitting room curtain. She steps on the dirty clothes while trying on the new outfit. With a smile, he opens the curtain and asks her to come out. Lion appears wearing a new dress, and he approves of the result. Suddenly, he turns in surprise and calls for Shauna. The girl notices that Lion is imitating her, and that her consciousness is recovering faster than expected. Then she refuses a red dress, thinking it's too flashy. Even so, she puts it on while he thinks there's no problem if it's for private use. Then he chooses a black dress and suggests that she try it on. He offers the outfit to Shauna, who stares at it blankly. She holds the dress and realizes that maybe she also can't change on her own, just like Lian. Realizing the situation, he smiles and says that, in that case, only he can help her. Soon after, Shauna appears wearing the black outfit with cat ears. With a satisfied expression, the young man praises his own good taste for the choice. Then he urges the group to leave the place immediately. After their departure, the clothing store becomes empty and silent once again. Outside, he yawns, showing his accumulated exhaustion. But his drowsiness disappears when he notices silhouettes approaching from across the street. Quickly, he hides behind a wall, sensing the imminent danger. Outside, he recognizes Wang Lin, Lei Yu, and Liu Yuhao near a defeated zombie. Hidden, he wonders if Shauna's situation has been revealed to them. While Wang Lin points in their direction, Lei Yu dismisses the possibility that they've been betrayed. Even so, he questions why the other group would risk coming all the way there. Wang Lin then turns and looks directly toward the abandoned shop. She slowly walks toward the display window to investigate. The sudden approach alerts the two hiding inside, who shrink back to avoid being seen. On the other side of the glass, Wang Lin stares at them with a serious and determined expression. Ready for confrontation, he signals her to wait with his hand. Beside him, Shauna huddles and watches the situation carefully. Outside, Lei Yu calls the others after finding something on the ground. Liu Yuhao notes that the bodies are still bleeding, concluding they died recently, and congratulates Wang Lin. He then questions her for praising Ling Mo, but she defends herself, saying she only answered his question. Wang Lin becomes irritated and threatens to abandon Liu Yuhao as she finds out he lied about the young man's strength. Even with Lei Yu suggesting they've already left, she insists on finding them today. Lei Yu expresses his concern, reminding her that they're no match for that group. Wang Lin doubts he killed so many zombies, but Lei Yu points to the corpses as proof. She then assumes Shauna helped him, but wouldn't do so in her presence, confident she can defeat him. Determined, she runs off to capture the one she calls a thief, while Lei Yu tries to stop her. Back in the store, he grumbles in confusion about the chase, since he only took a knife. Then he challenges them to find him in the big city as he prepares to flee with Yilian. Suddenly, the girl leaps across the rooftops with incredible agility. After the jump, she looks back with a surprised expression. The opposing group runs toward them to begin the pursuit. He realizes Yilian knows his location and calls her back. While fleeing, he concludes that Wang Lin must have already located them. With that, he spots a cyber cafe and gets an idea to throw them off. However, the inside of the establishment is infested with zombies. Without hesitation, the group forces their way through the creatures. Right after, they quickly climb the stairs to the upper floor. From above, he watches the street through a window. Wang Lin enters the building and becomes irritated when she doesn't find them. Suddenly, a zombie appears and blocks the group's path. Upstairs, the strategist asks Shauna to wait before acting. He decides it's time to teach their pursuer a lesson. Downstairs, Wang Lin stops upon hearing a strange noise. Suddenly, a creature is thrown from the upper floor toward her. The creature crashes down in front of her, surprising her with the attack. She's shocked to realize that the zombie attacked her by surprise and can even use weapons. Then, the creature charges at her with a furious roar. Enraged by the attack, she draws her knife, ready to strike back. With a quick movement, Wang Lin attacks, but the zombie dodges at the last second. While Lei Yu warns her, she is stunned to see the enemy dodge and finds it abnormal. Soon after, the zombie roars and counterattacks with a powerful strike. She blocks the blow with her knife but complains about the creature's surprising strength. Struggling to hold off the attack, she wonders where that zombie came from. While fighting the creature, the woman wonders if that really is a zombie. In a fury, she yells at the monster in the middle of the battle. Meanwhile, Lei Yu tells her to hang on because help is on the way. Suddenly, a hand appears from behind and covers Wang Qing's mouth. The clash of her dagger against the zombie's weapon sends off sparks. Then she shouts for Lei Yu to cut the monster while she attacks it from the front. Lei Yu is surprised when his strike misses and only hits the floor. Soon after, the two are shocked to see the enemy manage to escape. Furious, the warrior promises the opponent will pay for that. As she calms down, she notices someone is missing and asks where Wang Qing is. When they look to the side, they realize he's gone. Lei Yu then angrily assumes the other ran away during the battle. The leader, however, doubts that, believing he wouldn't be able to escape on his own. She assumes he may have gone looking for protection from another group. With that, she concludes that their target must be somewhere nearby. Reflecting on how abnormal the zombie was, she worries about encountering more like it. She then firmly declares that their priority now is to kill that monster. Lei Yu, however, thinks it's better to fall back, since the enemy seemed to think for itself. Annoyed, she stomps on her companion's foot and demands that he get out of her way. She says that even if it's a mutant, they scared it and decides to go after it alone. Faced with her stubbornness, he can only lament the situation. As he sits down, he complains that violence has become a habit for her. Suddenly, he looks back with a surprised expression. Nearby, someone watches through the window and notices that she's alone now. With a smile, he comments that she chose the path to hell over paradise. As the huntress moves forward, the observer decides he'll teach her a lesson. Then she hears a loud noise coming from a nearby door. Without hesitation, she forcefully opens the door. Upon entering, she finds a messy room. She sighs in relief, thinking the wind just knocked over a glass. She says the enemy must be nearby, and that he'll be next after the zombie. Then she looks to the side with suspicion. She then questions if the creature could have shut the door. Moments later, the door slams shut again. With a defiant smile, she asks if the creature wants to fight her. Suddenly, the door slams with a bang and catches her off guard. The enemy then charges at her, roaring. With that, the woman is grabbed by the creature. Soon after, she's thrown to the ground while yelling for him to go to hell. But the monster manages to firmly grab her wrist. Irritated, she tries to break free from the grip. Afraid, she thinks she'll be devoured alive by zombies. In the next moment, she's grabbed from behind. Confused, she wonders what's going on. Soon the opponent raises his hand and she tells him to stop. With that, she receives a slap square on her butt. As the hits continue, she screams desperately for it to stop. Then, a hand grabs her chin, leaving her completely stunned. Terrified, she asks what he wants as a second zombie approaches to kiss her. Desperate, she screams in terror, believing she's about to be attacked by the creatures. While being held, the young woman screams desperately for them to stay away. The second zombie moves closer with the intention of kissing her. With her eyes shut tight, she panics thinking about what's going to happen next. Her scream of protest echoes down the hallway. Suddenly, the zombie holding her is ordered to stop. Soon after, the boy realizes she has fainted. With a smile, he decides to check on the girl. Then he crouches in front of her, unconscious in the corner of the room. He gently touches her face, trying to wake her up. The next moment, she opens her eyes, completely in shock. Frightened, she curls up and screams for them not to come near. He asks her to calm down, and upon seeing him, she recognizes him in surprise. Immediately, she asks why he's there and where the two zombies are. Pointing to the side, the boy simply replies that they're right there. Elsewhere, a muscular zombie observes Wang Cheng, and she asks if he saw anyone else. Meanwhile, he denies seeing anyone else while watching Lai Yu. Back in the room, the survivor finally realizes she was saved. The boy then says he had no choice, because her scream was too loud, which annoys her. Right after, he asks why she hasn't thanked him, and she offers to give him back his dagger. He, however, questions whether her life is worth only the price of a dagger. Then he states the weapon is already his, so it's not hers to offer. Confused, she asks what he wants, since she has nothing else to give. Suddenly, she remembers her own knife and searches her waist. Then she asks where her weapon is, frantically looking around the floor. The boy shows her the knife handle and asks if she's looking for that. Immediately, she demands the knife back, but he scolds her for speaking that way to someone who saved her. She then turns to Shauna, complaining that her cousin is letting him mistreat her. Faced with the other's indifference, she screams in pure frustration. Soon after, the zombie turns to leave, while the cousin yells for her to wait. Unexpectedly, the boy blocks her path and harshly asks who she's referring to. He scolds her, stating that she has no right to complain about the girl who took care of everyone by herself. Then he concludes that Shauna is much better than her in every way, leaving her speechless. Irritated, the young woman yells at him to stop, claiming that saving her doesn't give him the right to act like that. Without hesitation, he interrupts her with a slap to the face. Holding her cheek in shock, she wonders how he had the courage to do that. Furious, she glares at the young man, unable to finish her sentence. He then explains that it was just a small punishment, and that she would have already been devoured if she weren't Shauna's cousin. Even so, she indignantly demands to know who gave him the right to hit her. He replies coldly that being stronger than her gave him that right. Right after, he states that in this world, being stronger means having more power to decide. Frustrated with his answer, she tries to step away. Confused, she remembers that he had called her sister-in-law just moments earlier. The young man, however, replies that it depends on whether he recognizes her as such, using her own argument against her. Grabbing her face, he warns that he doesn't tolerate provocation, which leaves her frightened by his intentions. Confused, he asks what kind of thing she thinks he's talking about. With a smirk, he teases her by saying he's not interested in girls with small breasts, making her furious. Then he warns her that Shauna is his, and that it's up to him to decide if she'll be treated as a sister. Right after, he demands to know how she got to that place. She denies having used any special technology, claiming she already searched herself and found nothing. She refuses to talk, but he threatens her, reminding her of the scene she witnessed and asking if she wants to go through that again. Terrified by the threat, she screams desperately that she doesn't. With that, she begs him not to ask, because she believes he wouldn't believe her anyway. However, he insists that it's his decision whether to believe or not, but she has to tell the truth first. With no choice, she finally confesses that she has some kind of superpower. The revelation of a superpower visibly surprises and intrigues him. In front of the others, the girl reveals that she also has a superpower. Surprised, the young man questions her claim of having a special ability. With that, he realizes that, as he suspected, he's not the only one with unusual capabilities. In turn, she finds it curious that he never considered the possibility. Next, he asks what kind of power she has and whether it's related to how she tracked him. After demanding an answer, he hears that her power is interaction. She explains that she can place a mark like a radar on anything she touches in order to track it. He then deduces that the previous fight was only to mark him so she could follow him afterward. The girl explains that the mark doesn't last long. and he questions why her power is so weak. With a sad look, she laments that her ability simply doesn't improve with use. Soon after, she begs to be allowed to leave, promising not to cause any more trouble. However, he suggests with a smile that she can try begging him. Outraged, she asks if he really expects her to beg. Then she proudly declares that she has never humbled herself before anyone in her life. As she turns, she meets the silent gaze of her cousin and is left speechless. Giving in, she finally apologizes to her brother-in-law. He then says he regrets being harsh, but warns that he was forced to do it because of her behavior. Next, he advises her not to do anything foolish again, and she says she understands the message. Finally, he gives her one last warning not to anger him again. After that, the group gets ready to leave, while the other girl watches everything from a distance. Suddenly, she calls out to Shauna, who turns around surprised by the call. With that, she hands over a gift her grandfather left for her cousin, leaving her emotional. Soon after, she insists that she put the gift on immediately. Annoyed by her attitude, the young man demands to know what she thinks she's doing. Frightened, the girl quickly says goodbye and leaves. Her sudden exit leaves him completely confused. The gift turns out to be a jade pendant, which Shauna adds to her necklace. He examines the high-quality item and asks if it's an heirloom from the Wang family. Then he realizes the cousin came only to deliver it, but still distrusts her intentions. At that moment, the girl asks if he really wanted to kill her. She says she felt his intent to end the life of her relative. He admits that he truly did, but held back because she is Shauna's only family. Then he assures her he won't kill her, out of respect for Shauna. However, the zombie girl looks confused, as she doesn't understand why that would make her feel anything at all. With a smile, the boy explains that it's because, after all, the two share a blood bond. Suddenly, he questions her, stating that she must have recognized her cousin to allow her to put on the pendant. Shauna confirms that she recognized her, but admits her mind is very confused about everything. Soon after, she clutches her head in pain, saying that thinking about it hurts. He comforts her, promising that in the future she'll remember everything and become who she once was. Upon hearing that, she lowers her gaze with a thoughtful expression. Then she looks at him and says she doesn't want to go back to being the old Shauna. At that moment, Elaine approaches and says that she and the other are the same. Because of that, she reveals that neither of them wants to remember the past. The boy reflects that Shauna is not like them, but that she's still different. With a calm look, she just observes him silently. With a smile, he reminds her that only he is allowed to squeeze her face. Then he suggests that from now on, if she wants to show affection, his instruction is for her to kiss him, and the two share a romantic moment. Although the setting is pink-hued, Ling Mo and Shauna share a kiss, and the intimate moment between the two is witnessed up close. Soon after that, Shauna reflects that the sensation is strange and considers herself the unluckiest person. But he then explains that he was just teaching her and that she could try on her own later. As the girl asks if she can try now, he replies that it can be whenever she wants. However, Gillian watches, and he quickly tells his partner that it was just an instruction. Next, the boy suggests that Shauna try again, but in a deeper way. As they kiss again, he praises how fast she learned. Suddenly, he pulls away and calls for Yi Lian in surprise. Soon, the girl kisses him, assuring him she won't leave him behind. With that, the boy has a shocking and sudden realization, and his heart starts beating noticeably faster. He soon clutches his chest, feeling the rapid pounding. Then he realizes the sensation is the same as when he first kissed Yi Lian. Shauna then wonders if her saliva might have a similar effect. As his heart races, he realizes he's gathering strength and his mind is becoming clearer. He soon understands that their saliva isn't poisonous, but rather beneficial and stimulating. With that, the boy hugs the girls and exclaims that their bodies are full of treasures. However, his expression changes as he suddenly remembers those two guys. He comments that Lai Yu is locked in a hotel room by the zombies he controls. Then he turns his attention to Wang Cheng, as a blue energy begins to form on his finger. Soon, the same energy envelops a zombie, who smiles sinisterly. He then reflects on how cruel Wang Cheng is and how surprised he was that he went after Wang Lin. Moreover, he believes Lai Yu wouldn't help him and could be fooled by their friendship. Suddenly, the line of blue energy snaps with a crack. With a serious look, he concludes that the guy knows too much to be left alive, and the scene then shows the out-of-control zombie about to attack Wang Cheng, who is defenseless. Thus, he admits it's the first time he's killed someone, but justifies it as a future threat. In the end, he regrets that the plan to go to the university city was delayed because of Wang Lin. Determined, he says they need to find a place to rest for the night, and the moon lights up the abandoned building where the group takes shelter. Soon after, he holds a cup of hot instant noodles. As he sits at the table with the girls, he comments that the smell is good. Then he reflects on how eating cooked noodles has become a luxury. With that, he blows on the noodles to cool them down a bit. Then he eats with evident satisfaction. Elian and Shauna watch in surprise at his excitement. After finishing, he exclaims how amazing the meal was. He comments that he never thought noodles could be so delicious. Then he thinks about the irony of getting excited over something so simple now. He soon decides that his priority is to help Yi-Lian and Shauna recover. With that, he notices that Shauna's ability has improved and that mutant zombies can use weapons. This idea suddenly reminds him of Wang Lin's knife. As soon as he picks up the weapon, he offers it for Yi-Lian to try. With that, he helps the girl hold the weapon and instructs her on how to use it. Then he suggests that she test the knife on the door just ahead. Yi-Lian then grips the dagger firmly. With a determined look, she prepares to strike. The blade slices through the air swiftly, leaving trails of light. Right after, the girl appears amid the debris of the door. He watches, impressed, thinking the display is incredible. With the dagger in hand, she realizes her combat skills have improved drastically. Soon, the young man hugs her and suggests they celebrate the progress. Then he announces that they'll sleep together, leaving Shauna visibly confused, and the morning light then shines on the top of the building. Already in bed, he sleeps deeply. Suddenly, he wakes up sensing a strange presence. Upon opening his eyes, he's startled to see the two girls and asks what they're doing. Shauna then replies directly that she wants to bite him, leaving him confused. Meanwhile, the other thinks she wants to as well, but ends up hesitating. He feels relieved to have woken up in time, thinking he would have been dead if both had bitten him. He then decides it's time to get ready to gather supplies. Next on the rooftop, the group gathers as he uses his energy threads to scan the area. The blue threads spread through the lower floors of the building. Meanwhile, a zombie collects food from a store, thinking he has enough already. Likewise, another one carries a box of water, deciding to take it anyway. Soon after, he instructs them to search for an exit, warning that they're approaching the city center. On the rooftop, he realizes his mental power has weakened and that he needs more zombies to evolve. He quickly remembers that the New Era Plaza should have many enemies and that the battle will be worth it. Elsewhere, the footsteps of a zombie echo across the ground as it reaches its destination. With that, it stops in front of the building and confirms it has finally arrived. Back with the group, he announces determinedly that it's time to go. They then approach a service entrance of the mall. He explains that entering such a large place through the first floor isn't wise. According to him, the lower floors must be full of zombies, unlike the upper ones. After the explanation, he pulls his dagger from his belt. He quickly reminds himself to stay alert even in the passage. Then he instructs Yi-Lian to take the lead and Shauna to carefully cover the rear. The trio climbs the building's stairs in silence and with caution. When they reach the third floor, he finds it strange that there aren't any zombies around. Suddenly, he realizes something isn't right. He notices the girls have no reaction and wonders if there truly are no mutant zombies there. With that, he opens the stairway door. The group cautiously enters the main area of the third floor. Suddenly, they freeze with a surprised expression. Looking down, he sees a horde of zombies and warns them to stay silent. He then remembers that the floor has clothing stores and maybe a supermarket further back. Even so, he decides that if they don't react here, there must not be any mutant zombies in the building. At that moment, Shauna calls him with a hand on her chest. Right after, she says she's not feeling well, leaving him confused. Without warning, someone grabs Shauna by the neck. In the blink of an eye, he and Yi-Lian see her being pulled into a room. Furious, he yells that he won't allow anyone to steal his girl and charges forward with Yi-Lian. Meanwhile, a mutant zombie attacks Shauna, pinning her to the ground inside the room. As the creature tries to bite her, the girl pushes it away with her sword. With that, she grips the weapon tightly. Soon, the young man appears at the door and desperately screams her name. Hearing him, the enemy is distracted for a moment. Then Shauna kicks her hard, yelling for her to get away. As soon as Yi-Lian appears wielding her dagger, he shouts her name. With a swift movement, the young woman positions the blade directly at the zombie's neck. Even so, the creature manages to dodge and is thrown backward by the force of the strike. Surprised, he realizes the opponent was able to evade the attack. The young man then reflects that the previous mutants didn't dodge, but this one is very agile. Because of that, he orders the two to fall back to a safe spot. He notices the zombie can strike stealthily and sense danger, concluding that she is special. Finally, he suspects that she killed all the other mutant zombies in the building. Facing the group, the enemy lets out an intimidating scream, releasing a freezing mist. He concludes that the opponent is stronger and smarter, perhaps in advanced form. In response, the creature lets out a deafening roar while releasing her energy. With a powerful stomp, she cracks the ground beneath her feet, preparing to strike. Moments later, she leaps toward them, and the young man shouts a warning of danger. Immediately, Yi-Lian and Shauna charge together to intercept the attack. The enemy, however, manages to stop the sword with her bare hands. At the same time, the young man tries to use his ability. The lasso hits the creature squarely on the shoulder. She lets out another furious roar as she rips off the threads. Then he realizes that his spiritual energy can't affect her. The zombie charges again with a scream of rage. He freezes in surprise at the speed of the new attack. In an instant, the creature strikes in with a powerful blow. With the force of the impact, the young man is thrown backward and coughs up blood. The enemy then approaches and roars directly in his face. The young man reacts and grabs the zombie's neck, telling her not to even think about it. Next, he punches her in the face, sending her flying backward. With glowing eyes, the creature screams in fury from the hit she received. As revenge, she slams him hard to the ground, breaking the floor. Immediately after, she crushes his arm with her hand. While immobilized, the young man screams desperately for the girls to act now. Hearing the command, both of them rush forward with their weapons ready. With a synchronized strike, they sever the enemy's 2 arms at once. The creature screams in agony at the sight of her severed limbs. Taking advantage of the distraction, he kicks her away from him with force. Right after, he gets up and orders them to kill her immediately. Shauna then prepares to deliver the final blow with her sword. Her blade comes down in a swift, glowing arc toward the creature. The zombie looks up in her final moment, screaming in agony. At last, Lion grabs the opponent's head. Shauna warns that they're coming, while the young man confirms he got the gel and tells them to leave. Meanwhile, a horde of zombies quickly climbs the stairs in their direction. The creatures roar as they approach the door where the group was. Already at the window, he urges the girls to jump, shouting at them. Then he leaps through the opening to escape the infested building. As he lands on a car, he shouts for them to get out of there first. Right after the jump, he leans on them while feeling the pain from his injuries. Finally, the group finds a safe place to shelter in a nearby building. Inside, while taking off their boots, he complains of pain and asks them to go easy. With his jacket already off, he comments that it hurts and that Shauna still needs more practice. Shirtless, he turns to Lian and asks her to treat his wounds. Lian starts the dressing while he reflects that his control isn't strong enough, as Shauna didn't hold back and almost hurt him. The young man then thinks that the mutant zombie was very powerful, concluding that he needs to make the girls evolve. As he smiles, he imagines how incredible it would be if both evolved into advanced zombies or even beyond. Suddenly, the bandage on his arm tightens with unexpected force. He screams in pain, realizing he got distracted and lost control of his own strength. As soon as he finishes getting dressed, Lion shyly covers her face while he comments that they finally did it. With a smile, he announces that it's time to share the mission reward. Then he reveals a small blue gel capsule that he managed to get. The young man looks at the capsule for a moment with a confused expression. Then he brings it closer to his nose to smell it. He is startled to realize the capsule now smells good, unlike the fishy smell it had before. Suddenly, he feels an uncontrollable urge to swallow the capsule, so he tries to calm himself and fight the sudden impulse. Then he realizes their minds are affecting him, while both girls ask for the capsule. Thus, he decides to split the gel in half for them to share. Upon receiving her half, Shauna comments that the energy is too pure and intense, so she offers her piece to Lian. He concludes that Shauna can't handle the power because she isn't as evolved as her companion. Then the girl prepares to consume 1/2 of the capsule. Immediately, she reacts with a spasm from the power's effects. Meanwhile, Lian also feels the energy and seems relieved after the first wave. Soon, both release a powerful roar, their eyes glowing red. Surprised, he realizes they've finally started to evolve. Then he notices that the virus power in the gel is so strong that even he feels the immense pressure. Seeing their struggle, he hopes they endure it, as they'll evolve greatly if they succeed. 3 days later, the evolution process finally comes to an end. Using binoculars, he comments in awe that the evolution took 3 days. Then he turns to the girls and admits he thought they wouldn't survive. He then reflects that they were on the edge of rage and that he didn't dare test them with his power. With a sigh of relief, he thanks the fact that they fortunately made it. Suddenly, Sean interrupts him, saying that she remembers something. The young man turns around surprised and asks if her memory has been restored. Pointing at him, the girl states that she remembers how he flirted with her. Then she accuses him of taking off her clothes and touching her, while pretending to help her bathe. Not knowing what to say, he is left speechless by the accusation. He then replies that instead of complaining, she should thank him for everything with a kiss. Sean asks if that is what humans call flirting, leaving him confused by the expression "you humans." She then clarifies that he is human but she is not, and he agrees that, strictly speaking, she isn't anymore. With that, he asks what else the girl can remember. She replies that she feels a lot of things stuck in her mind, but everything is still very vague. He then realizes that she only remembers what happened after the infection, forgetting everything else. The young man then wonders if maybe she is unwilling to remember the past. Sensing his concern, Shauna says things are fine the way they are and asks him not to look at her like that. With that, he looks away for a moment thoughtful. Soon he smiles and comments that she has recovered well, now even able to read his expressions. Then he declares that it's time to leave as they've already wasted too much time there. While speaking, he puts on his coat, getting ready for the trip. Finally, he turns and announces that their destination is the university city. Soon, he yells for everyone to move ahead. Then, the group reaches a deserted and silent street. Suddenly, the place was filled with bodies on the ground. The environment was completely destroyed as they advanced. The young man warns that the university city is just across the street. Meanwhile, a zombie appears near a building. He considers it a good time and prepares his ability. With that, he commands the creature to go check the area. The young man then warns everyone to be careful, as the area is densely populated. The controlled creature then walks down the street to inspect the place. After a while, he says there's no danger for now and they can move on. As they advance, he covers his nose due to the strong smell. His companion notices that he doesn't like the smell, and he confirms it. Curious, the girl asks why. He replies that it's hard to explain and questions what kind of person would like the smell of corpses. Sean reveals that she likes the smell, but her memory tells her to pretend to hate it to please him. He reacts exasperated, questioning what was going on in her head. With a smile, she reassures him by explaining that it's normal for a zombie girl to like that smell. Then he promises that he'll never hate her, only asking that she be like his sister Yi. Shauna then confesses that sometimes she feels like biting him and asks if that would be a problem. To change the subject, he points out that their puppet went far and they need to catch up. Suddenly, he stops with an expression of maximum alert. Immediately, the psychic connection with the puppet is severed. Shauna asks what happened, while he realizes something occurred with his zombie. With a grim look, he confirms that the puppet was killed. The scene returns to a minute earlier, showing the creature in front of the Music King bar. As soon as it enters, the link is broken. Suddenly, a violent strike hits the zombie head-on. Then it is subdued to the ground by an unknown assailant. Back to the present, he suspects that a mutant zombie attacked it by surprise inside the bar. The young man asks Shauna if she can sense anything, to which she replies yes, but it's very far away. Noticing that Yi Lion shows no reaction, he concludes that perhaps there are only humans inside the bar. Decided, he draws his dagger and says they're going to check out the place. Soon after, the group positions themselves in front of the Music King bar. As soon as he enters, he comes across the body of his fallen puppet. The young man then kneels beside the creature to examine it. Upon analyzing the intact body, he concludes that it couldn't have been the work of a zombie. At that moment, Yi Lion suddenly shows a strange reaction. With that, he looks around and confirms there's something wrong in the bar. He then prepares a new ability and gives a command. Right after, a trail of blue energy rises toward the sky. The energy strikes one of the creatures, and a young man commands it to approach. He then explains that he will use the new puppet as bait to set up an ambush. With the plan ready, he commands the creature to move into the bar. Hidden, he uses the new puppet to investigate the inside of the bar. The creature then kicks the first door hard to make noise. Next, the puppet stops and reacts to something inside the room. The young man finds the silence strange, doubting it's a mutant zombie. However, he notices that Yi Lion is clearly sensing something. Determined, he orders the puppet to continue the search. The creature then kicks the next door forcefully to draw attention. Seeing nothing there, he insists the puppet keeps going. To make more noise, the creature bangs loudly. He concludes they might be survivors, as a mutant zombie would have attacked already. Suddenly, the puppet is ambushed by a figure that appears quickly. Right after, a dagger pierces the puppet's head with a precise strike. With the connection broken, the puppet's body collapses lifeless to the ground. A survivor looks at the creature in disgust. Then he yells for anyone hiding to show themselves immediately. He watches from his hiding spot, amazed that he's still alive. Then he steps out and politely asks the young man for his name. The boy glares at him with disdain without answering. As he charges to fight, he's mocked and called tough guy. During a charge, he pulls something from inside his coat. Right after, he throws a red ball in his direction. The young man tries to defend himself using his dagger to block the ball. Even so, a red cloud hits him directly in the face. Coughing heavily, he realizes he was hit by pepper powder. Taking advantage of the distraction, the boy goes in for a direct attack. While charging, he tries to draw his weapon. Soon, the clash of weapons produces sparks in the air. From the impact, the boy's weapon falls to the ground. He's shocked to see that Shauna stopped his attack. With her blade at his neck, he's startled to realize she's a girl. Shauna's sword leaves a small cut on his neck. Still recovering, the young man pleads for her not to kill him. The boy sighs in relief, thinking he was going to die. As soon as she calms down, Shauna kicks him hard. From the impact, the boy falls to the ground. Confused about what just happened, she then reminds him that she wasn't forbidden from hitting him. Immediately after, she grabs him by the collar while he asks what she's going to do. Without answering, she gives him a strong slap across the face. Then she warns that she'll slap him again if he makes any unpleasant noise. Meanwhile, Yi Lion treats his eyes and he complains about the pain. After Yi Lion blows on his face, he finally feels better. Suddenly, he and Yi Lion look to the side with curiosity. He picks up the boy's weapon from the ground and comments that the knife has some details. He explains that the weapon is a sharpener coated with zombie blood, a combo designed to infect humans. Holding the weapon, he admits with a smile that the boy is actually quite skilled. Meanwhile, sounds of slaps and cries of pain echo through the bar. With her hand on his clothes, Shauna stops the boy from cursing. The young man then orders her to let him go. As soon as she releases him, the boy falls to the ground, complaining of pain. Right after, he gets up defensively and says he didn't attack them on purpose. He questions him, and the boy claims he thought they were bandits and just wanted to escape. Not believing him, he states the boy knows the place well and definitely lives there. The young man then accuses him of trying to divert their attention away from something. Sensing his nervousness, he presses him, but the boy insists that he's poor and starving. Irritated, he grabs him and tells him to stop spouting nonsense. Then he threatens to kill him and demands to know if there's anyone else nearby. The boy falls silent, visibly tense at the question. Immediately, he swallows hard in fear of the situation. In a burst of anger, he yells that they can do whatever they want because he deserves it. The young man just lets him fall to the floor and calls him tough guy again. Then he announces that he'll search alone and asks Yi Lion to watch the boy. As soon as he turns around, she places a hand on his shoulder. The boy stares at her confused, not understanding what she's about to do. With a fixed gaze, Lian continues staring at him intensely. Suddenly, the boy screams in pain from the strength of her grip. Desperate, he begs her not to hit hard and agrees to lead them. Even while surrendered, he wonders why the two girls are so strong. As he watches the young man walk away, he tries to understand who that guy is. The group then stops in front of a bloodstained door marked with the number 617. He points to the door, questioning if that's the one. With a smile, he decides they should keep searching. Annoyed, the boy wonders what they really want from him. Shortly after, the young man stops in the hallway and announces that they've arrived at the destination. Then he points to door 618 and confirms if that's the right place. The boy just looks at him with an irritated expression without saying a word. He then nervously suggests they check the storage room. Soon he notices that the boy tensed up and lowered his head in front of the place. With that, he states that the young man's nervousness upon approaching the storage gave him away. While the boy yells for him to stop, he kicks the door open. Inside, he finds a storage room with boxes, a refrigerator, and bloodstains. Seeing no way out, the boy says they can take whatever they want from the room. The young man approaches the fridge, curious to see what's inside. As he touches the door, he senses that precious things are kept there. Suddenly, the boy falls to the ground, frightened. Immediately, he grabs the doorknob. At that moment, a girl suddenly appears, surprising him with her speed. With no time to hide, she draws a knife, ready to fight. Soon after, she tries to use her ability, but she realizes the knife is already close. Then she understands it was a close call. He yells for whoever is hiding to come out immediately. Right after, the foot of a girl in a school shoe appears. Then she emerges with her brown hair. Holding a knife, she demands they release Shinbin right now. Meanwhile, he and the girl face off in a standoff, both armed inside one of the rooms. Barely, he thinks with relief, he wasn't injured. He quickly realizes that his neck would have been sliced if not for his spiritual tentacles. With that, he understands his ability only disturbs human judgment without manipulation power. Even so, he knows that even the slightest misjudgment can be fatal in a fight. Suddenly, the girl asks him to let Shinbin go. He then questions why he would do something like that. Next, she rushes forward with the knife in hand. However, he stares at her and comments how slow she is, then advises her not to pretend to be strong if she's actually weak. Suddenly, the knife appears dangerously close to his eye. He's shocked to see the girl with her eyes closed as she uses her tentacle ability. As she passes by him, he thinks that even sick, she's still a deadly threat. Soon after, the girl collapses on the floor, and he notices that she always reacts well in the crucial moments of the fight. He then concludes that even affected by his power, she still managed to touch him. Seeing her exhausted on the ground, he believes the girl must have some special ability. Then he comments that Lian could already sense her presence and finds it amazing. He quickly ends the conversation and says they need to control her first. With that, he immobilizes the girl from behind using his energy threads. Frustrated, Shinbin screams, asking what he's doing and demands he let her go. The young man then uses her as a hostage and threatens to stab her if they don't stop moving. Suddenly, Shauna says she just remembered something, and he asks if she's serious. She then questions whether in movies people like him wouldn't be the villains. Soon, Shinbin agrees and yells what kind of man would mistreat a little girl. He defends himself saying she was the one who started the fight. So he asks why they fought, and the girl explains that she wanted to rescue Shibin, who had been captured. He denies capturing the boy and claims he was attacked first. To prove it, he points to his red eye. The girl smiles and asks if the pepper spray worked, shocking him with her idea. She then offers to apologize on his behalf, but the young man says he has a question to ask first. Shinbin then yells what he wants and tells him not to touch her. She reassures him, saying she's not his type because of the other two girls. Recalling the last time, the girl says to forget it, as they couldn't fight or escape. She is then released and sits on the floor, gasping. Soon he approaches and asks if she has any special ability. She then realizes she didn't see it wrong and had been influenced by his ability. He confirms that she also has a special power. With that, Sean admits that Shibin is impulsive and might have done something rash. The boy pleads for them to let him go, explaining that everything he did was for her. He says he doesn't mind and is more interested in her ability than their relationship. The girl reveals that her ability is called Bullet Time, and that it can enhance her reaction speed. With that, he concludes that her power is like slow motion and could be a great asset. He calls her honest, but she replies that she has no choice since they're hostages. The young man then smiles, thinking about how clever she is. He soon concludes that he thought Shibin was the stubborn one, but she's actually the real boss behind everything. While Shauna coughs, he concludes that if she were healthy, she would have been stronger and wouldn't be stuck there. As soon as he enters a messy room, Lane Mo sarcastically comments on the organization of the place. Then he asks Lian to release the boy immediately. Right after, he sits on the bed and says he'll rest there until they decide how to compensate him. Hearing this, the girl questions him, saying Shinbin has already been beaten more than once and asks what more he wants. Next, the young man is called weak and offers a stool to the girl, who hesitates to accept it. Ling Mo then asks if he looks like a petty person to her. With that, she thanks him and sits on the offered stool. Soon after, she comments that Yi Lion seems familiar and asks if she's also from X University. He's surprised by the question and asks if the girl studies there too. She confirms and says she remembers Yi Lian as the campus beauty, remarking on his luck. Next, the young woman introduces herself as Lin Luanqiu, a freshman in physical education at the same university. Lin Luanqiu then defends Shin Bin, saying he's good, just a little neurotic, but the young man denies it all, irritated. Observing the scene, the young man concludes they've encountered hostile survivors there. He quickly explains that tension is normal in the apocalypse and that Yi Lian's companionship was essential for him. Surprised by his attitude, Lin Luanqiu begins to say that she told him they weren't bad people. Then Lin Mo asks if they also recently fled from the university, but Lin Luanqiu replies that their plan is to enter it, not the opposite. Shin Bin reacts in shock, questioning the decision to go to the university city at that moment. Right after, he calls them crazy, since he and Lin Luanqiu just escaped from there a few days ago. With a worried expression, the girl also advises that it's better if they don't go. Even so, the young man suggests it wouldn't be hard to find shelter, but he still believes it's possible to gather strength. He soon reflects that the idea is good, but remembers that his zombie companions need gels to survive. With that, he says he needs to go and asks for information about the place as a form of compensation. Lin Luanqiu accepts the deal hesitantly and with a bit of concern. Soon, Shin Bin gets excited and reveals that Ling Mo is lucky, because Lin Luanqiu was a core member of the rescue team. Upon hearing this, he realizes that the boy is good at fighting but not very smart, and that they're bluffing by revealing their cards. Lin Luanqiu then explains that the team was a temporary group and that she was promoted due to her special ability. Thus, Ling Mo considers it normal for such a large university to have a volunteer organization. Then he directly asks how many survivors and zombies are still left on campus. She answers that around 3,000 survivors and at least 30,000 zombies remain. Because of that, Ling Mo smiles at the thought of 30,000 zombies, since it means there are many mutants there. He soon reflects that entering the university will be dangerous, but will also yield many virus gels. Next, he asks if the rescue team has 3,000 people, but she denies it, saying they are scattered. Thus, he deduces that there are many teams, and she confirms that the largest has 200 members planning to escape. Then she says that her team had more than 30 members, but only 10 managed to get out. Finally, she concludes sadly that now only she and Shi Bin remain. With that, he assumes she knows the routes well, which she confirms hesitantly. Meanwhile, he regrets that her poor health prevents her from being their guide. Soon, Shin Bin gets upset and accuses Ling Mo of trying to take advantage of her weakness. Faced with the accusation, the young man's gaze remains serious and fixed. Immediately, Lin Luanqiu tells the boy to shut up, leaving him speechless. Then she apologizes for his stubbornness, while he says he knows the boy cares about her. For his part, the young man awkwardly confirms that he has to take care of her because she protected him in the past. Thus, Ling Mo watches him suspiciously and questions whether that's really true. Right after, he confronts him, asking if taking care of her means keeping her locked up to die slowly. Completely shocked, the young man receives the harsh accusation. Because of that, Lin Luanqiu scolds him, warning him to shut up if he doesn't want to get beaten again. The young man tenses up and is surprised by the reprimand. Then she reminds him that he can't even beat the two girls, let alone Ling Mo. Furious, the boy questions who she thinks she is to yell at him. Thus, Ling Mo suggests that she just draw a map to solve the problem. However, Lin Luanqiu refuses the offer and firmly declares that she will go with them. Then, Lin Luanqiu offered to join Ling Mo's group. However, Shin Bin reacts in shock, rejecting the possibility. Soon he warns about the danger, but she reveals that she is sick and afraid of dying. Moreover, she adds that, at the very least, she doesn't want to die from a disease. Faced with this confession, the young man is left speechless and just clenches his fist. Even so, the young woman assures them she won't be a burden and will lead the group to the clinic. With a sad smile on her face, she explains that she would be kicked out of her own team for being weak. Soon after, she reinforces that she only wants the medicine, and because she trusts them, she will guide them without causing trouble. For his part, Ling Mo thinks that having a guide would really save a lot of time. Meanwhile, Shin Bin reflects that it would be impossible for the two of them to get there alone, understanding his companion's decision. Thus, he acknowledges that she is smart and understands the logic of equivalent exchange to survive. In light of that, Ling Mo asks her to sit down and warns her that, if she poses a threat, his team will take priority. With a teasing smile, the girl asks what kind of reckless behavior she could possibly take. Still, the other also warns her to avoid any impulsive moves. As soon as she asks when they plan to leave, the leader states that it's late and they need to rest first. The newcomer suggests they all spend the night there, but Shin Bin grumbles about their bad luck with zombies, and Ling Mo agrees. Then the girl asks if he believes there are many people with special abilities. He repeats the term, as if reflecting on the subject. Soon he thinks that, besides himself, he's only met 2 other users, considering himself lucky for his own ability. Out loud, he guesses there must be very few. She agrees, saying she thought the exact same thing. Then she reveals she knows of one more user on campus, though she emphasizes that he's not trustworthy. Curious, Ling Mo asks how she got her ability, and she replies that it seems she was born with it. Based on that, he concludes that the origin of the powers is a mystery, but what matters is knowing how to use them. Right after, the young man tells the new ally to rest and gives Shin Bin the task of keeping watch for the night. Lightly, the girl asks if there's a problem with that, and he denies it, a bit awkwardly. Ling Mo smiles, imagining that she gave the other the watch duty just to make a good impression. As he walks away accompanied by Yi Lian, he mentally agrees that it's better to leave a man on guard at night. Shin Bin watches the two walk off with an irritated expression. Meanwhile, Lin Luanqi reflects that the leader was kind to her, because if he wanted to, there would be nothing she could do. The young woman advises her companion to accept that Ling Mo is powerful and that, for now, he can only hate him in silence. Meanwhile, the trio finds room number 705. Inside, Shauna finds a bottle and says she remembers what it is. Without hesitation, she grabs the drink thinking it will make her feel better, which catches the young man's attention due to her familiarity with alcohol. Right after, she prepares to open the bottle with her teeth. With a pop, the bottle opens successfully. Immediately, the girl starts to take a long swig. After that, she lets out a satisfied sigh. With a smile on her face, she offers the drink to a hesitant Yi Lian. At the same time, Ling Mo reacts, telling her not to teach bad things to his companion. Despite the warning, Shauna manages to convince Yi Lian to try it. Next, she helps her friend drink even more from the bottle. Ling Mo then covers his face, lamenting that his Yi Lian has been corrupted. Suddenly, he gets a bad feeling about the situation. Soon he realizes that both of them ended up getting drunk. With red eyes from the drink, Shauna and Yi Lian approach him with a mischievous smile. At that moment, he steps back, startled by the sudden change in their behavior. As he tries to back away, he nervously asks what they want. Suddenly, one of the arms reaches toward his face. Lying on the couch, he can barely believe what those girls are doing. Pinned down, Ling Mo desperately asks what they want. At that moment, Shauna laughs mischievously while licking her lips. When she leans in to lick him, the young man yells for her to stop immediately. With that, he grabs the other's face, reminding her of the agreement not to bite him. The teasing girl promises she won't bite and will only kiss him, but he doubts her intention. Ling Mo then accuses that it wasn't a kiss and that she only wanted to bite him. Right after, he turns around and sees Yi Lian approaching. As the girl also tries to lick him, he asks in disbelief if she's going to bite him too. After Yi Lian backs away a little, the leader calls her, noticing her confused expression. Taking advantage of the opportunity, he quickly activates his ability. A thread of energy connects to both of them, who seem dazed by the effect. Relieved, he concludes that the alcohol awakened their instincts and decides not to let them drink again. At that moment, Shin Bin enters the room and asks what happened. Fortunately, Ling Mo notices that the two sobered up just as quickly as they got drunk. Then he bans alcohol from that point on, and both girls silently agree. Tired, the young man leans back on the sofa, admitting the confrontation left him exhausted. Yi Lian watches him in silence and seems to agree with him. With a smile, he laments the other guy's presence, saying they could be having fun, and Sean asks what kind of fun. He then replies that it's a game, which sparks the Joker's curiosity about the subject. Next, he pats the girl's head and promises she'll find out later. With both girls at his side, he announces it's time to sleep, since they'll be leaving in the morning. The next morning, the bar is completely silent. Shin Bin then knocks on the bedroom door, calling for them to wake up. As he tries to listen in, he gets irritated thinking they might still be busy in there. Suddenly, the door opens, leaving him shocked. He immediately sees a sword in front of him and freezes in fear. Terrified, the young man yells that he's leaving and runs off immediately. Shauna confirms that he finally left. With disdain, she comments that she doesn't like him bothering Ling Mo, who scolds her for scaring him so much. With a smile on his face, the young man calls her a naughty girl. Then he helps Yi Lian put on her boot, calling her a stubborn princess. Soon, the companion is fully dressed. Lin Luanqiu then comments to the other girl how kind the leader is for dressing his girlfriend. After that, he asks if she's ready to go, and the woman confirms. As the group walks down the hallway, the new member follows them in silence. While walking, she reflects that a guy capable of taking two amazing girls with him is impressive. With that, Lin Luanqiu wonders what the true strength of that man really is. Then, the group moves forward in a line along a narrow and desolate path. However, when the leader asks how much farther, the guide explains they'll need to climb the campus wall. That way, she justifies it as the safest route, and he asks where the highest concentration of zombies is. Soon, the girl points to the dormitory area, stating it's the most infested place. Additionally, the young woman assures that she'll speak the truth, as there's no way she could face him anyway. Next, the new member asks him to return the weapon to Shin Bin, who's already used to the weight and shape. Soon after, the young man examines the knife and comments that the companion had a lot of patience to sharpen it like that. Then he throws the weapon toward his friend with a smile. However, the one expecting it receives it in shock, falling to the ground as the blade comes his way. Immediately, Lin Luanqiu extends her hand to recover the object. Then the guide steps in and manages to grab the weapon very close to Shin Bin. Soon, the young man gets annoyed as she offers him the blade. For his part, the companion stares at the leader's back, certain that it was done on purpose. Suddenly, some zombies appear from an alley, roaring loudly. Right after, the assistant turns around and shouts for everyone to be careful. Then the leader points at the creatures and orders them to be eliminated. This way, his ability immobilizes the two creatures, leaving them vulnerable to attack. Next, Yi Lian and Shauna advance and defeat the zombies with ease. Seeing the scene, Shin Bin stammers that it was incredible, while the assistant watches silently. Thus, Lin Luanqiu deduces that Ling Mo's power can influence the actions and judgment of any opponent. While she reflects, the leader whistles casually beside her. Because of that, she concludes that his ability makes the team almost perfect in battle, finding him impressive. After the fight, Shauna cleans the blood from her weapon. Seeing her, the companion backs away in fear, thinking how the girl is covered in red stains. Soon, the young woman praises Ling Mo's talent, and he responds that hers will improve too as she evolves. Then the leader reflects on how the guide is brilliant, calm, and brave. Right after, she points to a wall and says they'll enter the campus as soon as they climb it. Then the group comes across a massive wall covered in bloodstains. In addition, the assistant laments, assuming someone was attacked and killed there recently. While she's distracted, the leader asks her to come closer. Then Ling Mo climbs the wall first and announces that it's clear, but they need to be quick. Right after, Yi Lian jumps nimbly to the other side. On the other side, the leader urges the ones left behind to hurry up. While Lin Luanqiu suggests Shin Bin go first, Shan insists on going ahead. Thus, the young woman runs toward the wall, thanking her companion for the help. With that, he clasps his hands to give her a boost up the wall. Using his support, she manages to climb to the top of the wall. Right after sitting down, the guide announces she's going to the other side. However, as she prepares to jump, she suddenly loses her balance. Then the girl screams as she falls backward toward the ground. In a swift move, Ling Mo's hand catches her midair. Soon, he holds her in his arms, and she calls out to him in surprise. While thanking him, Lin Luanqiu smiles. Watching the scene from below, Shin Bin shouts irritably, asking what's going on. At that moment, the guide scolds him, explaining that Ling Mo just helped her avoid tripping. As soon as she jumps over the wall, Shauna is met with Shin Bin's irritated expression. She then glares at him and says she really doesn't like that face. Next, Shauna threatens to slap him if she sees that expression again. In the end, faced with the threat, Shin Bin remains silent, unsure how to react. The group then proceeds along a narrow path through a forest. While walking, Ling Mo asks how long it will take, and the guide estimates about 7 to 8 minutes. She explains that the place is safer and that they just need to keep moving straight without taking any detours. Even so, she warns that zombies could be scattered throughout the woods, suggesting everyone stay alert. From a distance, Shauna replies that there's no need to warn them. Then she turns with a serious look, surprising the one responsible for the route. With a smile, the other says it was just a reminder, since it's her duty to guide them. Observing the scene, the leader notices that the redhead's self-awareness is recovering quickly. Suddenly, a noise from the bushes catches everyone's attention. A zombie then leaps toward Lin Luanqiu, causing Ling Mo to react in alarm. Immediately, she turns to face the creature with determination. Then, she uses her ability, and a wave of energy seems to paralyze the enemy in place. In a quick motion, the young woman pulls a sharp object from her sleeve. Next, she lunges and stabs the instrument into the zombie's chest. Soon, she realizes that her attack wasn't strong enough, and the creature is still alive. Before she can react, the undead slaps her hard across the face. Then, the creature swings its arm to deliver another blow. At the last second, Yi Lian appears and stabs her weapon into the zombie's head. With that, the creature falls, and the savior stares silently at her companion. Shin Bin runs to help Lin Luanqiu, asking if she's okay, while she assures him she wasn't hurt. Soon after, the woman thanks the leader, who replies that it's his job to keep her safe. Suddenly, the young man yells for everyone to look at the fallen zombie. He then points in shock, recognizing that the creature is Liu Chuan, who had turned. Without hesitation, Ling Mo lands a heavy slap on the companion to shut him up. Then the leader scolds him for shouting, warning about the risk of attracting more zombies. After calling him an idiot, he turns his back and walks away. The guide also warns him, saying she had already told him not to be so reckless. Angrily, Shin Bin grips the handle of his weapon, questioning whether he was truly being careless. Seeing his expression, Lin Luanqiu advises him to hate Ling Mo in silence, as he needs to understand his strength. Irritated, the young man thinks the leader is just a guy who relies on two girls to show off. She then reveals that she knew the zombie. He was a member of her rescue team named Liu Chuan. Next, she says that everyone panicked and ran without looking back, even after hearing him get bitten. Ling Mo then states that she made the right choice. With that, she agrees there was no other option but to run, since a bite meant transformation. The young man looks up at the sky and reflects that this is the apocalypse. The woman then laments, wishing she could return to normal and live to see that happen. With a smile, he advises her to focus on the current problems instead of dreaming. Suddenly, Lin Luankyu comes face to face with a group of zombies emerging from the forest. At that moment, Ling Mo shouts for them to go ahead, saying he'll leave the others behind. Surrounded by the creatures, Shin Bin wonders who these others are. With that, his expression fills with sudden determination. While attacking an enemy, the young man shouts for help, saying he can't handle so many of them. Soon, the leader charges in with his weapon to eliminate one of the zombies. To his companion's surprise, the creature manages to grab the weapon with its bare hand. From a distance, he watches Ling Mo fighting with ease and gets irritated by the scene. At that moment, one of the undead attacks him, and he can barely believe what's happening. Without hesitation, the fighter quickly eliminates the zombies around him. Then he stands over the creatures' bodies, visibly relieved. Shin Bin remains in shock, not understanding how he can be so powerful. Frustrated, he complains that the other one has surpassed him once again. Unexpectedly, a larger zombie charges at him without him noticing. But before the attack, Lin Luankyu suddenly appears and strikes the creature in the neck. The guide then scolds him for getting distracted during the battle, asking if he forgot what she said. Next, she advises him not to look at the leader, explaining that it's normal because of his special ability. Shin Bin repeats to himself, irritated about this so-called special ability. Then he thinks that if he had it, he'd be much better than Ling Mo. The young man approaches Lin Luankyu and asks where they should go now. She asks where he plans to do his business, but the other reminds them that they need to go to the clinic, even though the place is infested. With a smile, he says he needs to show sincerity, since a place with zombies must also have many mutants. The young woman explains that the clinic is far, so it would be better to rest and leave the next day. While drawing on the ground, she suggests the Taekwondo gym ahead as a good shelter for the night. The leader reflects that having someone like her is great, as without her help, he'd be completely lost. With that, he agrees to follow the proposed plan. While guiding him, the woman suggests turning left for a safer path, prompting him to ask if there are zombies on the right. Lin Luankyu says no, explaining that there's a much fiercer monster in the garden, where many have already died. Even so, the young man decides they'll go right, and Shin Bin protests about the danger of the mutant zombie. Finally, the other says that if he doesn't want to go, he can wait there, because he'll return after killing all the enemies. To everyone's surprise, the guide says she'll go with Ling Mo. While he questions her, she reassures him, saying the young man knows what he's doing. Next, she explains that without them, she wouldn't be able to return to the clinic anyway. With that, Shin Bin decides to go too, so he can protect her in case of danger. The leader then declares that since everyone agreed, it's time to move forward. When they arrive, he asks if that's the place with the mutant zombie, and the woman confirms the previous attack. The companion asks her to stay close, but she simply tells him to relax, which frustrates him. Suddenly, Yilian's eyes glow, and both girls react to the enemy's presence. Ling Mo then warns everyone to be careful, because the creature is approaching. Right after, a strong impact startles the group. The sound came from a figure that landed heavily on the ground. A huge zombie appears holding a boy, and Ling Mo wonders what that thing is. The creature then licks the unconscious boy's face. Faced with the scene, he can't hide his expression of disgust. At that moment, Lin Luanqiu warns him to be careful, because that mutant always targets handsome boys. The comment leaves him shocked, while the zombie looks at him with a certain interest. Right after, she turns her gaze away with a disdainful expression. With that, the creature throws the boy's body to the ground and prepares to attack the young man. Shin Bin then congratulates Ling Mo for getting another girl for his harem. Upon hearing the word, Yilian and Shauna react with shock and embarrassment. The two immediately stomp hard on the leader's feet, making him scream in pain. Confused, he asks what they think they're doing. In response, the companions scold him together, telling him not to be an idiot. The young man tries to defend himself, insisting he didn't do anything at all. Suddenly, the guide shouts for everyone to stop, warning that the creature is coming. The mutant zombie then charges and crushes the ground with her massive weight. Next, she roars fiercely, ready for combat. The creature attacks with immense power, while the two girls are still standing still. Shauna turns to Yilian and yells for her to get back. Unexpectedly, the two attack together and land a double slap to the mutant's face. As the opponent is thrown back by the blow, Shauna shouts Ling's name. At the same time, he, Lin Luanqiu, and Shin Bin watch the scene in shock. Right after, the creature lands headfirst on the ground, defeated in front of Yilian and Shauna. Ling Mo tells Shauna to collect the creature's gels, but warns her not to eat too many. Then he urges the group to keep moving. In disbelief, Shin Bin questions how they defeated the mutant zombies so easily, and the leader simply confirms it. Soon after, he asks the guide if she's seen other mutants, and she replies that that one was only average. Shin Bin is shocked, as that average creature killed many of his companions. With that, he wonders if he's falling too far behind compared to the rest of the group. The young woman then notes that they're not just a trio, but real companions. Limo agrees, reflecting that what exists between him and the girls is hard to explain. Afterward, he decides they should go to the taekwondo gym she had mentioned. A short time later, the group arrives in front of the abandoned gym. The guide points to a room on the second floor, describing it as a safe and strategic location. As they go up, he is surprised by her knowledge, and the woman explains that she has been gathering information since the beginning of the apocalypse. She adds that because of her illness, she has to work harder to survive. Upon hearing that, Limo looks at her with a serious expression. Then he turns and wishes her a speedy recovery. With a gentle smile, Lin Luankyu simply thanks him for the gesture. When they reach the door, the young man asks if that's the place, and his companion confirms. He then hears voices on the other side and wonders if they could be survivors. With that, he knocks on the door carefully and asks for permission to enter. A teacher opens the door, surprised to see humans, and asks which department they're from. Shin Bin recognizes him as Professor Luo, and the man, surprised, also identifies him. The young man is visibly astonished to have been recognized. Suddenly, another young man named Exu Kai greets the colleague, who is glad to see him alive. As they hug, the two joke about their luck in surviving the disaster. The woman then asks the leader if they should go in, and he suggests checking the place first. Curious, Exu Kai asks how his friend made it there, and he replies that he fought his way through the red light district. Shocked, the survivor asks if he escaped the school, but the other only says he got lucky. The others present are impressed to learn that Shin Bin returned, praising his courage. The newly arrived group then enters the room to join the others. Immediately, two guys notice Yilian, recognizing her as the campus beauty. The others comment on the beauty of Yilian and Shauna, questioning who's with them. Meanwhile, Lin Luankyu coughs, visibly embarrassed by the comments. Limo's irritated reaction clearly scares Shin Bin, who's standing next to him. With that, he begs the other to calm down, trying to defuse the situation. Sukai watches the scene from afar and realizes that the former classmate seems to fear the leader. Soon he approaches Lingmo in a friendly manner and asks which department he's from. In the end, the young man becomes annoyed, thinking that Shin Bin is a burden for revealing information that exposes the group's strength. In his thoughts, he considers him dead weight who only shows off, and contemplates the idea of leaving him behind. Even so, he decides it's better to inform Lin Luanqiu first, since they're still cooperating. After thinking it over, Lin Mo replies to Xo that he's not from the school and is just passing through. Upon hearing that, Xu Kai laughs and comments that, in the end, fate brought them together as human beings. However, he realizes that Shin Bin doesn't hold a high status and that someone else must be the group's leader. Observing Shauna, he concludes that she must be the one in charge, judging by her determined posture and the weapon she carries. Next, he notices that Yilian also seems strong, which surprises him since she's known as the campus beauty. Suddenly, the leader confronts him for staring too much, startling him with the direct question. To calm things down, the former classmate whispers that Ling Mo is Yilian's boyfriend. Xu Kai then apologizes and invites them to come in, but the other refuses the offer and says they'll look for another place. With that, Lin Luanqiu declares that she'll take them somewhere else, surprising Shin Bin with her decision. She then turns to the young man and calls him to go with the group. Without hesitation, he says goodbye to Xu Kai, saying he needs to follow them. Then he runs down the hallway and shouts for the group to wait for him. Shi Bin runs, asking them to wait for him. Suddenly, a hand grabs his arm while calling his name. As he turns around, he sees Xu Kai and asks what happened. The other says they won't get far and suggests they talk for a bit. Then he asks who the guy was that was with the group. Shi Bin replies that he's Yilian's boyfriend, avoiding any mention of special abilities. With that, he only comments that Ling Mo is very agile. Soon, Xu Kai asks for help with food, and the other is startled, asking how he would manage that. He complains that the other never helps him, and the friend asks how long they plan to stay there. Not sure, he replies that maybe just for one night. Then, Kai arranges to meet him outside later. Right after, he reassures him, saying they're friends, and he just wants to discuss something. Shi Bin says goodbye, saying he has to go. While watching him leave, Xu Kai thinks about the large backpack and the 3 weapons. Next, he turns and walks toward a door. As soon as he joins the others, he confirms that the newcomers came from the red light district, while the others ask about food. Soon, a girl begs him to ask the other group to take them away from there. Irritated, he slams the door and tells everyone to be quiet. One of the survivors accuses him of always coming back alone from the supply runs, saying they don't want to die. Angrily, Kai asks if they're accusing him of abandoning the others. He yells that everyone eats the food he risks his life to get. Then he says it's impossible they cross the district alone, because he knows how weak Shi Bin is. Even though Yilian and the other girl seem skilled, he insists they just want to leave. Confused, a guy from the group asks why they would lie about that. The leader responds that it's to intimidate them because he believes Ling Mo's backpack is full of good stuff. Besides that, he points out that the weapons they carry are high quality. Next, he shows his own worn-out weapons and blames them for the losses they've had. Suke says everyone is tired and won't leave today, and the guy beside him asks what he plans to do. With that, he asks the group if it's easier to take food from the living or from zombies. The group then agrees to ask for the supplies, but decides they'll rob them if the request is denied. Satisfied with the decision, he smiles discreetly. In his thoughts, he reveals that he always uses others as bait during food runs. With that, he concludes that the group's greed will ensure they follow his plan. However, a girl asks whether the other group might also be trapped on campus just like them. A boy agrees and asks how they would explain the 3 weapons since they're banned at school. Sukai shows irritation at their hesitation. Then he argues that the equipment could have been smuggled in. The others agree, saying they'll starve if they let Ling Mo's group leave. Suke thinks his group is cowardly and that the others' weapons will make things more difficult. Because of that, he decides he'll need to use other methods to convince them. Suddenly, he grabs the pink-haired girl's arm. Right after, he covers her mouth with his hand while a guy shouts, asking what's going on. With a smile, Sukai asks why the young man is so nervous. While holding the girl down, he says that if the plan works, they'll get the supplies and the 2 girls. Then he rips the girl's shirt to intimidate the others. With a shove, he throws her hard to the ground. After that, he tells the group they need to practice courage to ensure success. Thus, he offers the young woman as a sacrifice, saying it will boost everyone's morale. Right after, he challenges the men to show their strength and act. The girl begs them to stop as she tries to protect herself on the floor. Ignoring her pleas, the men advance and surround her. Sukai then turns to Professor Luo and asks for his opinion. Upon seeing him, the girl screams desperately for help, calling out to the professor. However, the man remains still, showing no reaction. Sukai smiles victoriously as the professor joins the group to attack the girl. Meanwhile, in another part of the building, the scene shifts to an abandoned gym room. At that moment, Ling Mo hands a pill to Shauna, asking her to be careful so Lin Luan-Q doesn't notice. Soon after, the redhead tries to give the treat to Yi Lian, but he insists they keep it discreet. In response, the 2 girls say they won't make any noise if they're fed by him. Faced with that, Ling Mo sighs, playfully calling them naughty girls. Then he offers the pills to both girls, who open their mouths in anticipation. Suddenly, Lin Luan-Q is startled by a scream. Then the young man realizes his fingers have been bitten and accuses the girls of setting him up. With the mission accomplished, Shauna and Yi Lian celebrate the success of their prank. Watching the scene, the woman wonders how they can be so reckless. At that moment, the room door slowly opens. Right after, Shi Bin enters the room, announcing that he's back. She asks him about his conversation with Tezukai, but he says it's a private matter. In response, Lin Luan-Hu warns him not to go too far, but the young man angrily shouts for her to stop. Furiously, he states that he could have chosen not to follow her. However, Shi Bin hesitates, unable to finish the sentence under her gaze. Next, he sits down and apologizes, admitting that he had no right to say that. With that, the young man acknowledges that she was the one who taught him to fight and saved him in the red light district. Then he turns to sleep, apologizing again, saying he's tired. Faced with the situation, Lin Luan-Hu just sighs. In a low voice, she starts saying his name. She reminds him that without Ling Mo, they would have lasted at most a week. With that, she lies on her back, asking him not to go too far. While pretending to sleep, Shi Bin thinks it's unfair that only Ling Mo has a special ability. Filled with envy, he whispers his rival's name to himself. Suddenly, a loud thunderclap lights up the sky outside the gym. Right after the thunder, the terrible death of an innocent girl is shown. Shocked, the men realize that she died during the attack. One of the guys panics, screaming desperately that she's dead. Annoyed, Exukai kicks him and asks why he's shouting and risking attracting zombies. Then he says that now they're all accomplices, as there's no turning back. Soon after, he asks Professor Luo to take care of the group while he goes out to look for more. Another thunderclap echoes through the sky, lighting up the abandoned gym. The sudden sound wakes Ling Mo, who had been asleep. With a flash, he sees Shi Bin standing, holding a weapon aimed at him. The young man hesitates for a moment, wondering if he should really attack. He thinks that a sneak attack could kill the other in 1 second. Even if it failed, he could still infect him and turn him into a zombie. With that, he believes Lin Luan-Hu would come back to him if he killed his rival. Determined, Shi Bin prepares to move and strike. However, he pulls back, deciding to wait until they reach the clinic for another chance. Putting away his weapon, he thinks Ling Mo is just a lucky guy. The young man watches him leave, and Shi Bin decides he needs to find out what Sukai is planning. A new thunderclap lights up the room where Ling Mo is sitting with the girls. With a serious look, he remains silent, completely focused. Then, Sukai calls for his friend, saying he knew he would come and invites him to follow. As they go up, he reminds Shi Bin that they used to be best friends, but the boy asks what he wants, claiming he has no food. With that, Sukai says he's just happy they're both alive and that he only wanted to talk about old times. Next, he moves closer and whispers that the boy doesn't seem to have had a good day. Shibin then confirms that since he noticed, he really hasn't had a good day. Soon after, Exukai hugs him, saying that as friends, he can tell him everything, and asks if Ling did something. At that moment, the boy grows suspicious of what he wants, but thinks that if his goal is to cause trouble for Ling, that's exactly what he wants too. After that, Shibin says that Ling is very cruel, making Sukai angry that someone caused his friend problems. With that, he promises that he'll get justice for his companion. However, with a smile, he says he has a few small questions to ask first. Then Sukai asks if Shibin really returned from the red light district, and the boy questions if he thinks he made it up. He explains that they returned from there because they had a patient and went to the campus clinic to get medicine. Upon hearing this, Exukai reflects that they must have something to fight for, since they crossed that entire district. That's why he insists that, to help him, the boy needs to share something about the group, making him hesitate. At that moment, a vision of Lin Luankyu appears behind him, warning him not to go too far. With a smile, Exukai asks if he's scared. Next, he questions why Shibin became so cowardly, but the boy denies being afraid of him. The young man then states that Exukai can't defeat Ling, much less the two girls who easily eliminate zombies. Outraged, the instigator boasts about his boxing trophies and thinks he just needs to pressure his friend to learn everything. Soon, Shinbin begins to talk about Ling, but stops abruptly in shock. Realizing he's being provoked, he asks Exukai what he really wants. He confesses that, besides helping, he wants benefits like the food and weapons Ling Mo has. Shocked, Shinbin asks if his intention is to rob their teammate. With that, Fukai grabs his hand and proposes they work together to ambush Ling. However, the boy refuses, saying it's too risky, so the other accuses him of having a crush on the weak girl in the group. While holding him, he suggests that once they capture the girl, the boy can do whatever he wants with her. Shinbin gets angry and slaps Fukai's hand, demanding he let go. He then steps back and warns him not to touch her, but the other pretends to be offended by his attitude. After that, Exukai argues that if they kill the group and take the food, they'll survive, since there's nothing left on campus. Tired, the boy gives in and asks what he has to do. Then the ally asks him to say who they are and what they have. Shinbin reveals that Ling Mo has a special ability, which makes the other curious. He then explains that the ability is strange and that, although Ling isn't good in close combat, the two girls are very skilled. Next, he warns not to touch Lin Luanchu, making Sokai call him affectionate. However, he says he has one more favor to ask, leaving Shinbin confused. The boy looks to the side with a shocked expression. Suddenly, 2K stabs him in the back, saying he's too cowardly and would ruin his plans. With a cold look, he still calls him a friend. Right after, the weapon falls to the ground. Then Shinbin collapses to the floor, seriously injured. Shukai picks up the weapon, thanking him for giving him what he needed. He then concludes that Ling Mo isn't good at close combat, which is his specialty, and that the girl's strength is limited. Soon someone approaches the body while Sokai decides a scapegoat is needed. At that moment, a flash of lightning illuminates his shadow and another person behind him. Frightened, he turns and asks who's there. Then he stares down the dark hallway in front of him. From the darkness, a voice emerges saying something. Ling Mo then reveals himself amidst the thunder, stating that their conversation was long and annoying, making Sokai recognize him. So Exukai turns to Ling Mo and asks how long he's been there. In response, Ling Mo reveals he had been watching him from the beginning, making the other admit he underestimated him. With a smile, the aggressor decides that killing him first will make everything easier. Then he charges, accusing Ling Mo of being careless for following him alone. However, the young man looks at him with a slight confident smile. With a swift gesture, he wraps his hand in his lasso. Soon, the lasso shields him as he dodges the weapon strike. In an instant, Ling Mo lands a precise blow to the opponent's stomach. With the impact, Exukai bends over in pain before him. Furious, the enemy recovers and vows to kill him. Then he charges again, determined to finish it. However, the young man dodges once more, prompting Sukai to scream at him to stop running. At that moment, Ling Mo reflects that using the spiritual tentacles to influence him drained a lot of energy. With that, he concludes he needs to use his power more efficiently, since he was already exhausted from fighting all day. Finally, the weapons of both clash in a direct confrontation. Taunting, Exukai says his special ability won't help him in a one-on-one fight. Then he threatens that he'll go after his real friends once he's dead. With a cruel smile, he fantasizes about what Lion must be like because of her beauty. Then he mocks him for staying silent, asking if he's too scared to speak. At that moment, Ling Mo murmurs for him to listen carefully. With glowing eyes, he promises that he won't let him have a quick death. Suddenly, he moves in the blink of an eye, catching Sukai by surprise. With the motion, the opponent's weapon falls and hits the floor. Shocked, the aggressor looks at his own arm, now cut. In an instant, he screams in pain from his hand. Desperate, he yells that he doesn't understand how the other could be so fast in close combat. Ling Mo calls him an idiot for making judgments without even knowing his special ability. Pointing the weapon, he says the guy isn't much smarter than Shy. Right after, the young man throws his weapon toward the enemy. The blade hits Exukai in the stomach, who stares back in shock. Limo says he didn't strike a vital point so he wouldn't die too quickly, prompting the other to ask what he wants. With that, he asks what would happen if he were stabbed with a weapon covered in zombie blood. Terrified by the possibility, Hyukai is left paralyzed on his knees. Soon, while the energy thread controls him, he transforms into a zombie. Thus, Mo observes the result and labels him an imperfect semi-zombie. With a gesture, he commands his new puppet to go. Meanwhile, in another room, a group of survivors waits in fear. Two men crouched in the corner appear visibly frightened. One of them questions why Tsukai is taking so long, but is scolded for suggesting they go out at night. The argument about fear and nerves continues until a third tells them to stop talking. Suddenly, knocks on the door interrupt the tension in the room. Relieved, one of the men announces that Tsukai is finally back. As he opens the door, he greets him with a cheerful smile. The group approaches to ask how it went and how long their food would last. One of them insists that Tsukai stop keeping them in suspense and just say the plan. Behind the sinister smile, the shadowy figure of Ling Mo was in control. Immediately, Tsukai attacks the man who questioned him with his weapon. While the others watch in shock, one of them mocks him for being such a sycophant. With a brutal motion, the zombie attacks his companion with a metal pipe. His blank and menacing expression dominates the grim scene. In a panic, one of the men screams that Tsukai has turned into a zombie. The others shout to run, desperate at the revelation. From the hallway, Mo observes the scene and concludes that everything went just as he expected. He reflects that they had planned to attack them, too cowardly to fight zombies. Angrily, he decides that all of them deserve to die for their actions. Meanwhile, Exukai attacks another survivor from behind. Then he bites the man's neck while the man screams desperately. The last two men beg him to stop, one of them pleading for help. Without hesitation, the monster slams the heads of both together. The professor watches the bodies fall and begs the creature not to come closer. Soon, he resigns himself to his fate, saying that death would be a release. Shukai stops with the pipe raised, seeming confused by the man's surrender. Saying goodbye, he stabs the old man, finishing the job. After the massacre, the zombie seems confused and without purpose. Suddenly, a knife pierces through his chest, leaving him in shock. With the task complete, Ling Mo stands in the middle of the room, surrounded by the bodies. Sukei's body falls lifeless to the ground at his executioner's feet. Even so, with glowing eyes, he drags himself in a last desperate effort. His bloodied hand tries to reach the young man as he turns to leave. Finally, Exukei's body drops to the ground, completely still. Outside, a violent storm forms over the area. Meanwhile, Lin Luankyu begs to be let out, confident that Shebin wouldn't hurt anyone. Insistently, she claims the boy is not a bad person and that everything can be resolved immediately. At that moment, Lin Mo appears behind them and coldly informs her that he is dead. Shocked, Lin Luankyu can barely process the word dead. Then he approaches and tells the devastated woman that he wasn't the one who killed him. The next morning, the sun shined on the blood-stained facade of the Taekwondo gym. Additionally, the school building also displayed the marks of the previous night's violence. While Lin Luankyu wept over Shebin's body, Ling Mo's group observed the scene. Soon, Yilian's hand softly touched Ling Mo's wounded hand. Surprised by the gesture, he turned and called her name. With a gentle look, Yi Lian brought his hand to her lips, leaving him flustered. Nearby, the sad-eyed girl sighed deeply as she composed herself. Then she stood up and said they needed to hurry and move on. Thus, the group leader watched her and realized how much Shebin's death had shaken her. Outside, several zombies wandered aimlessly across the campus. Crouched down, the young survivor told them to follow her through the bushes to save time. Soon, he turned and asked her how far the clinic was. Pointing into the distance, the girl shows that the campus clinic is the building with the tower. However, she warns that although it looks close, it will still take half an hour and that their priority is being careful. Upon reaching another building, the young man asks what place that was, and she explains that it used to be the laboratory. However, Lin Luankyu warns that the place is very dangerous due to the number of zombies, leaving him thoughtful. With a smile, he asks the guide and Shauna to rest while he and Yi Lian go check the building. Soon, the fire-haired girl stops the other from protesting, ordering her not to move. With a swift motion, Shauna forces her down into the bushes to rest. Meanwhile, the two of them approached another abandoned school building. Right at the entrance, a group of hungry zombies roars in their direction. Without hesitation, Yi Lian swiftly dashes between the creatures in fast movement. Then, Ling Mo uses his energy threads to control the zombies. With that, the controlled bodies turn against one another with glowing red eyes. One of the enemies lands a powerful punch on another's face. Soon after, another controlled one kicks one of his companions. In a short time, the hallway floor was covered with the bodies of the zombies. With supplies in hand, he decides they need to stop so as not to raise suspicion in Lin Luankyu. In the bushes, the young woman struggles, asking to be let go, while the redhead insists she rest. The girl complains that at this rate her arms will break, but the other just repeats that she must not move. A Upon returning, the leader orders her to release her immediately. While he apologizes for his ally's stubbornness, the survivor accuses him of hiding something. She admits she had her own plans to survive but reveals that something was bothering her. With that, Lin Luangqiu asks why Yi Lian didn't know the way either, surprising Ling Mo. The young man then realizes he was so focused he forgot she also studied there. Determined not to reveal the secret, he hesitates, unsure what to say. Then, Ling Mo lies, claiming that Yi Lian lost her memory, leaving the other surprised. Immediately, the young woman asks how she lost her memory. However, he rudely cuts her off, telling her not to ask questions that don't concern her. With her head down, Lin Luangqiu apologizes and says she will guide them on the path. However, as she turns, she feels a sharp pain and the young man notices her reaction. Sean approaches and asks if she's hurt, saying she smelled blood. Worried, the redhead asks if it's an infection, but the guide denies it and tries to explain. Suddenly, her jacket slips and reveals a blood-soaked bandage on her arm. The group leader is shocked to realize the severity of the wound. On the ground, the girl explains that now they understand why she needed to go to the clinic.
Our video ends here. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, bye bye.